This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandre, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, everybody in Provo, Utah, Battle Creek, Michigan. Always a fun time there. Where else can we go today?
I don't know. Go somewhere exotic.
Exotic, huh?
Yeah.
Tahiti. Everybody in Tahiti.
Ooh, there we go.
Everybody in Buenos Aires. Everybody in the French Riviera. Oh, that's a nice place. You know, I wasn't allowed to go into the French Riviera, by the way. Just so you know. Quick story before I get into the introductions as to why I wasn't allowed into the French Riviera. I got so drunk at one of the ports before that port that I was not allowed off the ship. There's a long story that goes along with that. I peed on the floor. There's a lot going on there.
I think I've actually heard this story.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard it, but there's nothing about it that surprises me.
It's actually look. I'm not going to go into the whole story. It's actually a very funny story. I mean, it really is. I had a really good time. It was worth it. You know.
It was worth not being able to go into the French Riviera.
I mean, I was mad at the time that I couldn't go to the French Riviera, but looking back, I would have rather have had the drunk incident because it's a good story to tell later on.
I see.
But, you know what I mean? Like sometimes
it's just worth it.
Like, what would I have done to the French Riviera? You know, it was every other.
Seen the French Riviera for one.
Yeah, but look, man, I got to see a whole bunch of other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like you know, I swim in the Dead Sea for Pete's sake. You know what I'm saying? So like, French Riviera, whatever. You know, Bob in the Dead Sea. You tell me what's going on. So, at any rate, I'm Alex, co-host Liberty Underground, along with me, the Duchess of Doing Stuff, my own personal Wikipedia. Danielle Alexandre, and Tribley's favorite libertarian for sure. Danielle Libertarian. Danielle Alexandre, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Feeling good?
Yeah, I am. I'm feeling good.
That's good. Good to hear you feeling good. Also, a gentleman that is, when you're looking at things that are sinister, he is the prime minister of those things.
He is not the prime minister of being on time, though.
He is.
No, by no
But
means.
he is the prime minister of all the things that people would consider to be sinister. His name is Greg Bowen. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Spectacular.
Do you like how I'm mixing up your name?
I do like that.
You like that? You like new ways that I'm going about saying basically the same thing?
Gotta keep things fresh.
Keep it real. I'm keeping things real. Hopefully everybody's doing well. We got a lot to go over today, by the way. We got a lot of information.
So much in show prep. Like, it's not even... I probably could do a whole nother show with what is not on the board for the show prep.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Let's get right to it, though. The first thing is this has been in the news for a little bit. We didn't talk about it on Friday because it didn't happen on Friday. Or at least it happened on Friday after the show.
It hadn't happened yet.
But it just happened like right after the show, I think, is when it actually when everything started going down.
Or later on maybe in the afternoon. But yeah, it wasn't shortly after we got off air is when it happened.
And that has to do with the release of the Army person, Sergeant Bergdahl, and his release. Bergdahl.
It's like Berg Dog, but no.
I imagine one of his nicknames when he was in was probably Bird Dog.
Probably.
I would imagine.
It really sounds like that.
It does sound like it.
And I could totally see everyone calling him that.
So what happened is that, and let me just let's do the overall general view of this thing, just to tell the story and then get into more of the specifics here. But what had happened is that about 5 years ago, Sergeant Bergdahl was kidnapped, taken by the Taliban, whatever you want to call it. We're not going to get into the specific on that just yet. And then for 5 years, he was a prisoner of theirs.
He was captive.
And what the administration did is that they traded 5 of the top Taliban people that they had in custody for this guy. And now we have him back on our side, and we're debriefing him and all that kind of trash. But this has raised a ton of controversy for a lot of different reasons. I mean, there's a whole ton of different angles for this one. And the first thing that I'll say is I've never seen an administration that can screw something up as bad as these guys screw it up. On like every level. Like these guys have screwed up so much. It really truly is A game of amateurs going on up in Washington D.C., led by King Joker, Barack Obama. So, what had happened was this, and I give you the whole story so you understand it. So, Sergeant Bergdahl was not happy with our current foreign policy, and that he was vocally voicing his opposition to it, and thought it to be a good idea to walk off the base without a gun in the middle of a war zone. Because of that, and there's also a report that there was 2 other guys that were Afghanistan people that were with him, were part of the security forces or whatever. They palled around the base, right?
Right, the Afghan security forces that are often commingled within.
Now those guys went AWOL at the same time, and what they think might have happened, they don't even know for sure yet because none of the information's been confirmed. But it looks like what happened is they went off the base with him and sold his ass out to the Taliban.
Right.
Now, Bergdahl was not happy with American foreign policy and was talking over and was trying to communicate with the Taliban, like he was going to solve all the freaking problems that were going on over there.
He was just brokering a deal.
If he was, I don't know.
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea. So he was captured for 5 years. Well, his father knew this, and so his father was trying to, understand what was going on over there, and so he grew his beard out long too, because I guess in order for you to understand what's going on, you have to grow your beard out. And he went over there and did that. Now, meanwhile, Bergdahl walked off the base voluntarily. Remember, he was not. They didn't come in and kidnap his ass. It ain't like they mind controlled him to leave the base. Dude left the base on his own.
Well, we don't know if there was any mind control.
Well, maybe there. I can't imagine guys in caves have ways of mind controlling people. But
well, I'm just saying.
It ain't. That didn't happen. Let's just go down the road there. And the military went out looking. The United States military went out looking to try to get this guy back because you can't leave the base, man. You got to come back. So we got to rescue you. And we lost a lot of service members at the same time off of something that we know now that no matter, the one thing we do know is dude walked off the base without a gun.
Yes.
That we know. I don't care what your thought process was there. You don't do that. And again, I said this on Wednesday. I'll say it again. If you're that upset with American foreign policy, then go punch a colonel. All right?
Yeah, you'll go home.
Then you'll go home then. Mm-hmm. You'll go home right away. I didn't say this on Wednesday, but I want to make this point. You'll hear us many times talk badly about American foreign policy. All right? And we will. Mm-hmm. But that does not diminish the fact that the Taliban are not good guys. They're bad guys. They're evil bad guys, man.
Real bad.
Real bad. I don't care. And again, I'm going to criticize our own, and I'm going to criticize our own foreign policy when it's required. But I'm not going to go to the Taliban to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you're a dumbass if you thought anything other than that. So this guy's like, well, I'm going to go to the Taliban and just explain to them that I don't agree with them on foreign policy. Yeah, that's going to work. You dumbass. Really. I mean, that's not going to work. But at any rate, so the president brokers the deal, gets these guys back. Now, in brokering the deal, which, again, I don't care what if we can broker a deal to get the guy back, we get our guys back.
Well,
I didn't think we were supposed to do that stuff.
Yeah, I thought there was no negotiating with terrorists.
I thought that too. But I'm going to go with if we can get a guy back, we get a guy back. Even though, like I said, the ramifications of this decision are going to put our troops in even more harm's way, and we should get everybody out of there right now, because what we've done is we've set precedent to where it is even more valuable than ever to kidnap and hold hostage an American soldier.
You've put a bounty on each one of our soldiers' heads.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bounty on it anyway. It's not like it wasn't like sunshine and lollipops and all of a sudden they're going to be bad guys. But they want to kill them anyway.
But yeah, there's a big difference between wanting to kill them and fearing the retribution of if they do that. Or if I hold them captive, I can broker a deal to get more of my guys out. at a 5-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, which is really bad, by the way. Especially it was like 5 of the worst bad guys that we had.
It's not just 5. It's 5 leaders.
Right.
They traded a sergeant for basically 5 officers.
A
5 zeros.
A low-level soldier that left voluntarily.
Yeah. So, and now Obama, what Obama was supposed to do, and it was written into the law, it was written into the NDAA, funny enough, very ironic that this was written into the NDAA, is that he had to inform Congress of his actions 30 days prior. Dude did not do that, and was like, well, I don't have to do that. Yeah, you know what? You do. You know why? Because it's the law, asshole. What's the I don't even understand the problem here. Look, I've explained before about how I feel about Alan West and what he did, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, you know that Alan West was overseas. He was doing his thing. He felt he had to do something that got him in trouble and got him thrown out.
Okay, yeah, I remember this
Okay,
now, yeah.
Now, what I'll say about that is, with Alan West is, you had to do the crime, or you had to do the time for what the charge was. But if I was in your shoes, I might have done the same thing. I don't know. Being in that situation, I don't know what's going to happen. But you got to face the music for what you did, right?
Right.
This is the thing about Obama. What the problem is that he did something that he thought was the right thing, right? You're like, well, we got to do it quick. We can't let anybody know about it. We're, get things done or whatever. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he wasn't a nefarious little bastard on this one, right? It doesn't matter. You broke the law. You got to face the penalty for that. Mm-hmm. Whether it was the right, again, we got the American home now, so now we can start figuring out what happened, and now we can do this. If you're serious about, well, the only thing that mattered was getting that done, and you were against Alan West, then you need to face the music. So and again, I'm gonna go. I appreciate that you got the guy home. I don't want everyone to see an American soldier sitting in the hands of the enemy. Now that you did it, we're going to totally scrutinize your damn decision, and since you violated the law, you should be impeached for that one. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Danielle, you can be impeached without being thrown out of office, right?
Yes.
Well, impeachment is just the process.
Impeachment is just the process, right? Okay. There's no getting around that Obama should be impeached for this one. None. Not even a little bit. He violated the law. It's as clear as day. Dianne Feinstein said you violated the law. So if one of the most evil women up in Washington, D.C., who also happens to be a Democrat, says that you violated the law, then I'm going to go ahead and say it's pretty safe to say that popular consensus is, bing, you violated the law.
It's funny because you mentioned talking about Bergdahl that what did he think he was gonna leave and go broker a deal? Well, funny enough, he has just as much authority as Obama does to go and broker that deal, but Obama went ahead and did it as well.
Yeah, and because there's a lot of controversy over why this one person and why would we release so many for this one person, because he's not the only one that's being held captive, and things like that. So
are you sure? Okay, he's the only military guy held. He was the last military guy held captive.
Last military person.
Not last American.
Right. Not last American, last military person to be held captive. He certainly wasn't the first one to be held captive, and we didn't broker a deal for any of the others. This is the first time that we've brokered a deal in many, many administrations, actually. Yeah. So there is a little why this person, why now, why was this one so important that we're willing to do 5-to-1, 5 of some of the most worst for someone who in all essence is a low-level soldier. So I really do feel like we're not getting enough info. I feel like we're not getting the whole story, and if we are, then we should have never made the deal. I actually don't believe we should have made the deal, but I actually think because of all the circumstances, we're not getting the whole story.
Yeah, I don't know why this was done. This might have been one of those. Look, I think that this administration, more than any, has something that I would like to call political fire extinguishers. No, is that the right word for it? Like, what do you hold off into the side that you put in reserve? A fire extinguisher. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go with that. Political fire extinguishers. And what that means is this. The VA scandal was blowing up, going all the way up to the president. Benghazi blowing up. All this other stuff blowing up. The timing on this seems particular that they wanted to get your mind off of all the other crap that was going on, so they do this story right here. And they thought it was going to be a big hero's welcome and all the other stuff, and they're too inept to actually figure out that this guy, when he comes back, is actually going to can be charged with, going at minimum going AWOL.
Yeah.
At minimum, he went AWOL. Like, there's not even getting around that one. Dude walked off the base by himself.
Oh, no, he definitely went AWOL.
AWOL.
The fact that he left without a weapon doesn't lend well to the whole he was deserting to fight back and to join them, which I have heard, some people say, well, he was deserting to join them. Well, why would you not bring a weapon? So I just think that there's
that's a good point, by the way.
Yeah, there's so many different little details that don't fit into the narrative. And it doesn't fit into anyone's narrative. It doesn't fit into, he was a good guy soldier that we had to get. It doesn't fit into he was about to fight us, so we should have left him there. None of it gels into a story that makes sense. So there's a lot about this that I just feel like that we don't know at this point.
It doesn't even fit into the basic propaganda of what our military is supposed to be, our best and brightest. If that's our best and brightest, oh my God, we are in for some trouble.
At the end of the day, no matter how you were deserting, either to fight your own or to fight or to just leave and say, I want to go home, you don't leave without a weapon. It's a war zone, regardless. So something's going on there that we don't know. And I think the biggest key for me is because he left without a weapon. When he comes back, I mean, that at the least he went AWOL. But there's a lot of things around this that just don't add up.
Mm-hmm. There is a whole lot of stuff that just doesn't add up here. I don't know, and I don't know why. That's the thing that really kind of irks me more than anything else is there's so many different ways in which what they could be hiding or what they could be doing instead that I just don't even know yet. Either way, it was such a bad move. You really emboldened the enemy. And again, here's what Obama did. Obama has solidified what I have said, or what my opinion is basically, at least in my mind, on foreign policy. Because you can't have idiots like this running the show. You just can't. You can't have idiots like this running the show.
Like Obama?
Yeah, like Obama.
Oh, okay. Well, and listen, we just talked about a guy who walked off a base into a war zone without a weapon. There's a lot of idiocy going on.
No. There's a whole lot of idiocy going on. But back up the idiocy part. Look, you're going to have a little bit of that no matter what. And then our foreign policy ain't helping these guys at all because this guy's all pissed off over there. Look, if you're going to send somebody overseas, it better be because they want to kill people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We better be over there to mean it. These police action crap has got to end. Because this is what happens. Is that somebody gets captured, then we do a trade. Next thing you know, we got more guys over there. We send more of their bad guys over there. Stop. Pick up the troops and bring them all home. Bring them all home right now. Quit playing around. Just, but it's not going to happen because Obama's a warmonger like Bush was a warmonger. I mean, doesn't change the fact that they're both warmongers.
Obama's
just a really bad one. Oh, no,
yeah.
he's
just bad at it.
Oh, yeah, look, and the neocons, you think the neocons aren't going to use this as a way to get back into office and be like, he's weak on foreign policy, so we can't have somebody like him, and then he'll equate what we're doing, what he's doing, to what we would suggest?
Right.
Like, that's what they're going to do. They're going to blame us for this one. Like, screw you. This isn't what we would want either. So don't try to put it on us, you bunch of neocon bastards. But at any rate, Obama's horrible foreign policy, horrible domestic policy, and works out like a chick. So
I did see that.
No, worse. No, let me say this. That is a disgrace. I apologize to the chick on this one because you know what, man? You work out harder than he does.
I was gonna say I look much more, like I mean it when I work.
God,
out.
we have such a.
And I actually think I use heavier weights, but I just saw what he had in his hand. I'm like, oh, come on.
We have such a wuss as a president right now. It's not even funny. Like, I really am ashamed of the president that we have, only because he's such an incredible wuss. He really is. Like, honestly, and I really do think that black people are just as ashamed. Because no black person wants to see the black guy that can't barely lift 5-pound dumbbells. Like, honestly, you don't want to do that. You want to be hard, man. You don't want to be Obama. You've seen this guy bowl. He wears mom pants. You see him throw a ball. This guy's the weakest guy in the joint, man. Like, how in the heck did this guy even make it through without getting his ass whooped in school?
I think Obama has probably been put in the category along with OJ and Brian Gumbel that he's ours. He's the black people don't claim him anymore.
Well, except when it comes time to vote.
Yeah.
You know, hey, your vote matters. You won't. Hey, you got to make the claim. If you were below in the 70s, I'd say I'd give you a little bit on that one, but I ain't gonna do that. You were in the 90s. You're in the high 80s, low 90s. Screw you. You got him. That's your boy. You own that, man. You own that non-bowling. You know. I mean, my son had a higher score bowling. I mean, he's 7 or 6 or whatever. I mean, this guy's just a wuss. It's so
Spaghetti noodle arms.
Oh, it's so bad how bad Obama is, really. On every level, he stinks to high heaven. He really is bad. And it has nothing to do with color. It has to do with he's a dork.
It has much more to do with that.
His dorkiness comes through, just shines through, boy. I mean, did you watch him working out? I watched a little bit of that video. It was just like, oh my gosh.
I saw a little bit of it.
like a flailing chicken.
I was like, oh, I could do better than that. I mean, come on.
Oh.
I have a back disease. I could do better than that.
I have a back disease.
And I'm a girl. And I'm only 5 feet tall.
Do you even lift, bro?
Come on, man.
I don't think he does. What were you thinking, by the way, doing that? Like, what was he thinking? Like, I'm going to go in there and get my swole on? Like, no. My swole was an anthill. I'm going to get my anthill swole on. With my mom jeans.
Who wears jeans into the gym anyways?
Someone who's never worked out before, clearly.
Most gyms have rules against it. You're not allowed to use jeans.
It's not really those rules when you're the president.
Yeah, when you're the president, how many rules do you have to follow?
I understand that he's the president, so they're not going to enforce the rule. But you know how never, ever in your life have you been into the gym that you don't know the proper etiquette is you don't wear jeans because it messes up the equipment?
Yeah.
But just goes to show, when you're president, you don't have to follow the rules. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
Yeah, well, the Obama administration did vow on Thursday to end the bulk collection data through the NSA if Congress passes the Patriot Act reform bill.
Which probably doesn't actually end bulk data, just solidifies it or moves it somewhere else.
It doesn't reform the Patriot Act.
That's the funniest
Here's
thing.
the thing. Oh, let me just say this. It is called a repeal bill.
Right.
Okay? Just do a repeal. Don't come up with some new friggin' law, because we know that your new friggin' law will not stop the bulk collection of data. I'll only believe you if you hit a repealer.
It says, the Senate Mr. Cole from the Senate James Cole from the Senate Intelligence Committee said, "We're trying to end bulk collection, but we're trying to allow enough flexibility to get in times the volumes of records that may be important to do these investigations, but still keeping them focused." So basically, they're going to stop collecting bulk data until there's a time where they need bulk data, and then they're still going to collect it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds like the way to go. Yeah. Oh,
I love how that,
we should have you in charge, guy.
This is the 6th story in about the last year that I've read that says the administration has announced that they're ending the NSA collection of bulk data.
And the article explains how they're not.
And then someone makes the statement of, because it's like, well, it's for safety. We're still going to collect bulk data, but just not collect bulk data.
Like, it just so irks me that these guys do this stuff. Like, and what website is that?
This is the Washington Times.
It figures. It just friggin' figures.
It's like they just changed the words around. Like, we are going to end the collection of bulk data, and we are only going to collect data in bulk amounts.
Actually, I think they're going to change the word bulk to mean large.
To large.
Or a lot. Or a whole bunch.
Or they'll say, like, we're just going to do some sweeping data collection.
Oh, yeah.
On targeted people throughout the U.S.
Sweeping data on targeted people. Exactly.
That means all of us.
That means everybody. You have to laugh to keep from crying at this point.
Exactly.
I think is what you got to look at it as, is that you really got to laugh to keep from crying. Oh,
and they
they
keep trying to put these things in. And like I said, this is the 6th time that the administration has come out and said that they're going to stop collecting bulk data.
As they've continued to collect bulk data.
As they've continued. And it's like every time, and you know what happens is every time Edward Snowden does another very popular interview, they come out with this new plan to end the NSA's collection of bulk data. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, Greenwald puts out a few more things, and, you know, Edward Snowden does a couple interviews, and they're like, okay, for real this time. We're going to end it.
We're so super serial.
We're just going to collect data on targeted people, you know, throughout the whole country.
Yeah, we're so super serial. Really. No, seriously, this time, we're not going to collect bulk data on everybody. We're just going to collect data on everybody. But not the bulk stuff. I promise we're not going to do any of the bulk stuff, just everything.
We're just collecting wholesale data at this point.
Yeah, no.
That could be a good word.
Bulk wholesale data. No, I'm sorry. We got to get rid of that word. I'm sorry. Change it to Sunshine State Standards.
Next generation.
Call it next generation data. That's what we're doing. All right, from now on, the term bulk has been moved to next generation data.
Collection of data.
That
we'll define as bulk collection.
But it's not going to be bulk anymore, so you can't say bulk. So no more bulk data collection. It's not really happening. There's nothing to see here. It's only collecting next generation data, which means bulk data. But not bulk, though, because we changed the name. You got to fall for this one, American people.
And, you know,
Sorry.
They keep using this word end. I don't think they realize what the word end means.
Oh, also, I'm sorry. One other change that happened. Sorry about this, Daniel. You were not made aware of this new memo. The word end now means codified into law. that we've changed this. So when you say you're going to end something, you're actually codifying it into law. So I'm sorry that you didn't get the memo on that. So now when you read articles, you will be a little more understanding of what it means. The word end no longer means to stop. It means codifying a law. Does that make more sense now?
I mean, in government standards.
Now
does it make more sense? Does it make more sense or not?
No.
Are you okay?
No.
All right. Call Toby with the NSA. Have her come in there. We need to have a little sit down interrogation with Danielle. Code Red 75162. I know you don't know what that means, but they do. Make sure you have a change of clothes.
I just, you know, like I said, they keep saying these words. I don't think it means what they think it means. And they just, you know, like maybe if we say it enough, someone will believe it. You know, I think, you know, and we did hear the Snowden interview and things like that, you know, and he says, you know, the place I'd like to be is home. Yeah, you can never come home. They're going to kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, because every time you keep talking, they have to come out with some, you know, let's reword that statement we used 3 months ago. But, you know, and now they're trying to, you know, repass the Patriot Act. And what they're saying is, look, we're going to stop the NSA as long as you guys stop complaining about the Patriot Act. And basically, this is what this statement is, you know, as long as you pass the Patriot Act, we'll stop collecting bulk data. We'll just collect large amounts on everyone.
Pretty much.
But don't complain about that Patriot Act because this was the deal.
Yeah, that's the deal. You got what you wanted. Didn't you know?
So now the NDAA did pass again, you know, because we've been talking about all of these different things and stuff. And we talked about this last week, or maybe even the week before. But the NDAA did pass. There was a Smith Amendment, and I don't know how far we got into this Smith Amendment, but the Smith Amendment would have repealed the sections 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA that was for the indefinite detention. It wouldn't have actually repealed them, but more have changed them to mean something better. And I think we did talk about this. David Jolly actually voted against that amendment, even though on the campaign trail he said that he is against the indefinite detention of American citizens on American soil.
Hold on a second, Danielle. Hang on. Do you mean to tell me that a lobbyist who ran for office and is a politician lied?
Yes.
Come on. You are a wild conspiracy theorist, man. Seriously, you need to not come on the show and embarrass yourself like this.
Well, he did actually, because people have been asking him about this, and he did actually send someone a statement back.
Oh, what did it say?
Basically saying that the reason he didn't vote for the Smith Amendment was because it would have the bill address the detention of foreign terrorists held in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, as a result of the terrorist attacks on September 11th. That he couldn't do that because the way the Smith Amendment was worded, it says it would have eliminated indefinite detention of any person detained under the authority and called for their immediate transfer to a trial by court. This would not have affected a law pertaining to any American. This amendment, were it passed, would have mandated the release of terrorists held for wartime crimes at Guantanamo Bay.
Which it wouldn't have done.
So I pulled the amendment because I'm like, I thought I had read it. But let me read it again. It's 3 pages.
Wow. Long pages.
It was hard, but I got through it.
I love this guy's name is Mr. Smith, by the way.
I know, right? So this is what it would change to. In the case of a covered person who is detained in the United States or a territory or possession of the United States pursuant to the authorization for use of military force or this act, disposition under the law of war shall occur immediately upon the person coming into custody of the federal government and shall only mean the immediate transfer of the person for trial and proceedings by a court established under Article 3 of the Constitution or by an appropriate state court. Such trial and proceedings shall have the due processes provided for under the Constitution of the United States. This is only if they were detained in the United States or on a territory in possession. What he's talking about are people who were detained over in Afghanistan and brought to Guantanamo Bay, which would not be what this is talking about. Mm-hmm. Just, in case the congressman was confused. It says no person detained, captured, or arrested in the United States. Again, the people in Guantanamo Bay were not arrested in the United States. Or a territory possession of the United States. Afghanistan is not. May be transferred to the custody of the armed forces for detention under the authorization for use of military force or this act. And it says this section shall not be construed to authorize the detention of a person within the United States or a territory or possession of the United States under the authorization of the use of the Military Force Act. What this means is that you can transfer someone and hold them in the United States as long as you didn't detain them on U.S. soil. But if you detain someone on U.S. soil, you had to give them due process.
What this would essentially do is to take America or the United States off of being the battlefield.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's no way that a guy like David Jolly would want to stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody that believed in what he said there, honestly, what did you expect, man? I mean, in all seriousness, are you that stupid? Are you that dumb? I mean, no, I'm not talking about you guys in this room. I'm talking about some people down in Pinellas County.
Right.
Not you in Pinellas County either, because you voted for Lucas.
Allegedly.
Again, he was a lobbyist for the military-industrial complex. Of course this guy is a neocon as the day is long. And of course this guy loves having the ability for the government to jail American citizens who disagree with his viewpoint on what the military should be doing. This is David Jolly. Say hello. Say hi to him. Because this is what the scumbag is. Not only did he vote for that, well, we'll get to that in a second here, but...
Well, and no, we'll get to the next one too. Because he had several bad votes lately.
Yeah. How is he on the Second Amendment?
He's actually pretty bad on the Second Amendment. Not only does he think that you should be able to detain on U.S. soil, he also thinks that you should have to jump through more hoops to get a weapon and arm yourself. Because apparently shall not be infringed was kind of lost on David Jolly. What he did vote was for it's about $20 million in additional spending to the Department of Management, or the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. This is when you go to get a weapon, they call through this system, and this is what clears you for having a weapon or not. Again, shall not be infringed means if you are trying to buy a legal weapon from a legally authorized weapons dealer, you should be okay, because there's supposed to be a presumption of innocence before any presumption of guilt. This would be the reverse of that, actually.
Yes.
But he also voted for $20 million in additional spending, which would be the exact opposite of fiscal conservatism and the opposite of wanting to protect your Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, you know what? I've been thinking about this here just now, and I actually think there's a reason why he did this. This is a vote to differentiate himself from Lucas Overby.
Oh yeah, that would be different.
Because he wants to be known as the gun grabber in Pinellas County, so that the Democrats that are the gun grabbers will go vote for him, and maybe it'll give him enough votes to win.
Maybe.
Because if you look at who voted for this one, it was all Democrats. Not all Democrats, but it was
mostly Democrats.
Was a lot of Democrats. 145 Republicans voted no. 142 Republicans voted no. 3 Democrats voted no. 76 Republicans voted yes, along with 184 Democrats voting yes. And then not voting was 14 Republicans, 11 Democrats.
Yeah.
It only needed a simple majority to pass. So.
Right. So.
But there's,
only 76 Republicans actually voted for this.
Yeah. Out of the, 210 that are there.
So this is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the state of Florida, mind you, let's see who the good guys and the bad guys are. I'll just give you the yes votes here. Andrew Crenshaw, Republican, voted yes. Corinne Brown, well, she's a gun grabber. Alan Grayson voted yes.
Well, that's
no
shocker.
It's no shocker at all. Great on the Fed, leave him away from everything else. David Jolly, matter of fact, I can't even like Grayson at all, even for the Fed stuff. Like, honestly, he's just a scumbag.
Right.
He's a wife beater, too. Wife-beating scumbag. David Jolly voted yes. Kathy Castor voted yes. So
No surprise.
The Tampa Bay area has got representations that are gun grabbers. Dennis Ross voted yes. No. Yeah. Dennis Ross voted yes?
I know. That's a little shocking, that one was.
Vern Buchanan voted yes. Patrick Murphy voted yes. Alcee Hastings voted yes.
No, Alcee
Hastings was a no vote. Oh, Teddy Douche was a yes.
And you do it all the time. You always say that, and it's funny every time.
Every single time.
It's Deutsch,
No. Teddy Douche. Lois Frankel, she voted for it. Debbie Wasserman Schultz voted for it. Well, how'd you know that? Frederica Wilson and her hat voted present. She voted for it though. And then Joe Garcia.
Diaz-Balart
voted against it.
No, I'm looking at it.
Oh,
Mario
yeah, you're right.
Diaz-Balart.
Mario Diaz-Balart. Mario, Super Mario. He voted for it.
I'm like, wait a minute, are you on the same page I'm on? And of course, I always, as soon as I see a bill and try to, compare anyone's votes, I always go to Justin Amash of Michigan, who voted no.
Yes.
You know that Jason Chaffetz just didn't vote on that one?
Yeah, I saw that.
That's weird. Is there any other? I wonder if there's anybody else on this list that was like surprising votes. People that you know. Where's Boner at? What's he? Ohio, right? Yeah, he's Ohio.
Yeah, he's Ohio.
Let's find Ohio here. Let's see where the Boner, the guy with great hair.
Okay, wait. He's not Ohio then. No, I thought he was Ohio.
Are you sure he's not Ohio?
Well, he's not listed.
Was he Indiana? No, he wasn't Indiana. He was Ohio, right?
All right, let's find him.
Ohio, OHIO.
He's not even on here.
What, they don't have the speaker on there? Oh, that is a little weird, isn't it, though? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. Eighth. It's not here. He's not here.
Oh, okay. He's not here.
I guess they don't put the speaker on the list.
The speaker votes separately, and it could be in the House that the speaker, because I don't really follow what procedures, what rules that they're using in the federal government. I just do the state. It could be that he only votes in the case of a tie,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Our speaker in Florida votes, which I actually don't agree with. The Speaker of the House and the Senate President in Florida vote.
As they should.
I don't. You're like when you're the chairman of some of the, like if you're supposed to be like the chair of a board or like the head of a board, you're only supposed to vote in a situation of a tie. You're not actually supposed to vote. So now in Tallahassee, they
get around this one.
What's that guy?
No. Finish what you were going to say.
Now, in Tallahassee, they use a different set of parliamentary procedures where the Speaker and the Senate President does vote.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. For John Boehner, was he elected?
He was also elected the Speaker of the House.
Was he elected?
It's inconsequential in this
Hold on. You got to answer the
situation.
question. Now you got to answer the question there, girl. Was he elected?
Yes.
So he was elected to be a representative of the people.
Then he shouldn't have run for Speaker of the House.
Yeah, but there's going to have a Speaker of the House, though. Are you saying that the Speaker of the House should not be one of the representatives?
No.
Okay. There you go.
Because you already set what can be heard on the floor and what can't. You already have that power to allow to actually make it to where a bill can't even be heard.
No, good. No.
So when you have that sole discretion, that is your vote.
You need to run for office. That was good. That was very good. Congratulations. Because I thought I had you. I really thought I had you there. Like I really did. I'm like, oh, I got her on this one. Oh yeah, I got you.
No.
I think you were. I was looking for an inconsistency there, and I thought I had it. I still think I have it. But you slicked your way out of it.
No,
He just doesn't have the angle yet.
There's no inconsistency there. When you
can
can control what is heard on the House and what is not heard, that is your representation.
That's your opinion. Now, because of David Jolly's votes and because there's no other Democrat in the race, they have done a poll from St. Peter's. Oh, I thought that was you were on that. You were on that, so I thought we were going there already.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So St. Pete Polls did a poll. St. Peter's blog put a poll out. David Jolly is leading Lucas Overby by 16 points. With no Democrat in the race, 16 points.
This is what I find funny. Because what it says is David Jolly takes a 17-point lead, but then they call it 47-31. That's 16.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to squeak out that extra point.
Do you even math, bro?
Oh, it says it's a mistake. It's because it says 16 up in the title.
But then when it says in the first paragraph, it says 17-point lead, and then they give the numbers that actually equal 16 when you subtract them.
So the poll numbers that they got for Lucas right now is David Jolly leading 47-31, 22% undecided. So that's where they got it at. Now, if you look at it off the Democrat side, Lucas has got 43%, Jolly's got 27%, and then 30% are undecided. So on the Democrat side, you take that 30% that's right there. I don't think that there's any of that 30% that's going to go for Jolly.
Well, they might undervote, though. So you might see that undecided where they just refuse to vote in that race because they don't know the Libertarian and they're never going to vote for a Republican. So you could see some of that 30% just undervote, but I think a large portion is going to go to Lucas.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Now, GOP, though, it was 71% against 17% for Overby, 12% are unsure. I actually think that 71% number is high, and I think that number is going to go down. So I think he could go in the 60s there, and I think that Lucas could pick up most of the unsures there in the 17%. Now, this is where I think Lucas is really going to climb.
Yeah.
Independents are leaning towards the Republican, so they got him at 41%. 33% are going for Overby, 26% are unsure.
He really should be going after the independent vote.
I think he's going to get it too. I think that 26% is going to go his way pretty quick. This means, one of the things that was said in this thing, his hope is that by midsummer he is polling in the high 30s. Romano said, which might create some buzz among Democrats who are solidly anti-Jolly. Now here's the thing. I'll guarantee you that if you'd asked, and I didn't ask, so I didn't ask Lucas's campaign on this, so I can't. I don't know anything, so I'm only speaking as myself here. However, if you were looking to see what the first poll would look like, boy, this is a good one to have.
Well, yeah, this being the first poll that's been done on the race, and for him to be polling so high is very. I mean, it's very good. It's gonna give him a lot of momentum. There's still a large portion undecided. So if he was 17 points behind with only an 8% undecided, then there's an issue. But when you have 17 points behind, 22% undecided, and most of the undecided is in the Democrat independent range and not in the Republican portion of that, that's huge for Lucas. Those are, just prime people to target to vote for Lucas.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge. It is huge what's going on there. So it's gonna be a very interesting race here. The other thing this thing does right there, the other thing this poll does, forces Jolly to debate.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think it is going to have to force him to debate. Listen, he's saying he's not going to do it till September.
Might be too late by then.
And I think it is. I mean, I think if Lucas and his team can go out there and especially hit independent voters and, Democrat voters, and that is the largest portion that's undecided, which means they're not happy with Jolly. If you're undecided at this point, it means you're not happy.
Well, and here's the other thing. Let them put out something about how he voted on the Second Amendment and see how many Republicans stay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to publicize any of that.
Well, but if Lucas puts that stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but maybe the Pinellas County LP should do that then.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, when it was different when no one had a record. And in the special election, nobody had a record. So you were...
not a voting record.
Not a voting record. So, and that's what I'm saying. So when you don't have a voting record, the only record that you are basing any judgments on the other is personal. And so I completely agreed with the Over-B campaign in the special election to not go to... Because you are literally attacking personal issues instead of actual voting records because there wasn't any for anyone. That's very different now. There's only 2 people in the race, and the one person does have a voting record.
Yes.
So to respond to each one of his votes is absolutely appropriate and what should be done right now with the Over-B campaign. Obviously, I'm only, speaking for, my own personal opinion, and I have no sway over what they do over there, nor would I want him. They have to run their campaign their way. But when you're running a one-on-one race with a candidate that has a voting record and are still voting during the campaign, you should be putting out a statement on every vote on how you would vote differently or how you would vote the same or where you would be on that. That's just good strategy.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they do that, but that kind of remains to be seen. But there's been some very horrible votes in the last 2 weeks that definitely should be addressed.
Oh, absolutely. No, this guy, just Jolly guy's horrible. I mean, he's a typical. Look, we knew what he was going to be. I mean, we knew what was going to happen when this guy got there, and we're only seeing more of that now.
And and listen, when he was asked about his vote on the NDAA, he tried to spin it around to, but this would have he goes to the fear. This would have immediately released everyone held in Guantanamo. No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, dumbass.
It would give people due process if they were detained on U.S. soil. It's very clear. The amendment is 3 pages long, and most of the 3 pages is like procedural stuff, like repeal. There's a lot of wording that isn't even the changes. The actual change is only 1 page, and it's not a hard read.
Yeah. So I wish somebody would have colored it in for you, but.
To read his response is just an insult on anyone's intelligence that can read. Because that's not what it says.
Yeah.
He's just flat out lying. I mean, there's no way to even spin that to mean what he says. It is very particular to people who were detained on U.S. soil. Not people who were captured in another country and are being held. Being held was not in there. Detained on is completely different. But he's basically running on the assumption that you don't know how to read or that you don't know what these words mean and that he can scare the bejesus out of you that he did the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable what the guys are going on.
It's just, like I said, not that we didn't know this was going to happen, but we kind of.
I mean, we called you. We called it. We said, "Look, this guy's a bad guy. He's military-industrial complex. We know what's going to happen." Then he goes in and acts just like that, and you're like, I'm just really surprised that this is how he's voting. That's not what he said he was going to do. I believe the lobbyist. Honestly, if you believe what Jolly was saying, you should punch yourself in the face right now. You should haul off with your right hand, whatever your strong hand is. With Obama, he should find somebody else because obviously he doesn't have a strong hand. But you should find your hand and you should punch yourself square in the nose, knock yourself out. Because you honestly, and the next time, you should never vote anymore. Honestly, you're done voting.
And if you can't punch yourself in the face, just come on over here. We'll do it for you.
We'll help out.
You already violated the nap when you voted for Jolly, so it's okay. We're defending ourselves.
It's a very good point, by the way. Very good point.
What is that?
Well, this is the no tax for taxing. I know that this was not going to get brought up, but we have 9 minutes left. I want to know if I was allowed to do something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, raise my hand. Well, can I do two things? Because one of them was raising my hand. Yes, thank you, Greg. You're going to have another vote in November in Pinellas County for no tax for tracks. Now, they just did this in Seminole County where they held the special election. But there's something I wanted to bring up here. I brought it up this morning when I was doing the show and when I was doing the Captain Show.
I was going to say, I don't remember this.
Well, I brought it up this morning when I was doing the Captain Show, but I want to bring it up again today. I am really, really getting sick and tired of the government.
You can just stop right there.
I couldn't tell.
But more specifically, that they literally are using taxpayer funds to try to get these tax increases in so they can solve problems that they will make a law to stop the free market from doing. Okay. And maybe I should save this for the hour that we're on Tan Talk. I'll bring it up again when we're on Tan Talk. I'm going to bring this one up again, but I just wanted to say, first off, she is hot.
Okay. Stop.
Sorry. I wanted to say this, though. They are literally using your taxpayer money and using all of the structure that government is, all the locations, all the things, whenever you've got to call into a government agency, they're doing all of that to get you to vote for a tax increase for rail, which they're wasting all kinds of money anyway, so they have the money to do it. They could literally just cut all the bad crap that they're doing. They'd have all the money in the world for the rail that they want to have. In addition to that, anytime that there's a free market solution to the problem, they're banning it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. This is not about fixing the problem with congestion. It has nothing to do with congestion, because if it did, then they would want other solutions as well, ones that don't cost the taxpayers any money.
Like Uber and Lyft.
Like Lyft. And again, these are probably two names you don't know about. You should look them up. Because these are solutions to the problem. They're free market solutions, but because the government can't get their grubby little hands in it to make a whole bunch of money off of it or to control you, they stop it with the force of government. Basically, guys with guns will come and shut you down if you try to give a... Honestly, they're going to ban giving people a friggin' lift if they call you without reporting it.
That's what this whole big deal over Uber, and we talked about this when we talked about Hillsborough trying to get rid of it. Now it's going on over in Orlando, and in many cities around the state of Florida. Uber is one of the, and we've talked about it before, but Uber is you basically register and say, I can give people rides. You go through a background check and you say, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. This is the address. Someone else says, hey, I'm looking for a ride. The website, the little Uber app connects you. You pay for it. It basically reimburses these people for gas money with just a little bit of a fee for being able to use the actual app. And someone's going somewhere, you're going the same direction, they give you a ride, and now the government is all sorts of pissed off because they can't tax it.
Now, let me say this, though, Danielle, and I'm not trying to disagree with you here, but I just wanted to clarify something here, if you don't mind. You're not going to get mad at me, are you?
No.
I went to the Lyft website, or what's it called? Lyft, right?
Lyft.
Yeah. Lyft, yeah.
Or Uber.
Well, I went to Lyft, not to Uber, so I want to make sure I was very specific on which one I went to. Now, they're making it sound like you can make a living doing this.
Well, if you were to do it all the time, you could, but that's not what it was set up to do.
Okay.
It wasn't set up. It's set up to be a ride-sharing service.
Now, it seems the way that website was set up, it was set up like not that.
Yeah, well, and
Have they changed, do you think?
I haven't looked at Lyft's. I've looked at Uber because that's the one that is here. And that is also the one going into Orlando, and that was the one that I was looking at in Gainesville when we were at the University of Florida.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you. Maybe they're trying to tell people that you can. I know that Uber says, help out with your expenses, because listen, if you're going to the grocery store and you could pick someone up on the way, you're not spending any more gas because you were going there anyway, so you're going to expend the same amount of gas, but you get a little money, so that brings down your expenses. So they do sell it like that.
Yeah.
You can supplement. But listen, this isn't a taxi service. It wasn't ever meant to be a taxi service. It was meant to be that you're giving a ride to someone else because you happen to be going somewhere.
Yeah. No, and the thing about it is this. Again, there are free market solutions that are happening. The fact that they're stopping those solutions from happening has gotta be a little troubling to you. Like, if you're going to be honest with yourself, you have to be troubled with this. Let's say you like the rail, right? Like, you're a big rail person. You're all about the rail. You're like, rail. You're a rail guy. Even if that's the case, do you really think it's okay that they stop the other things that can help? Like, do you think that they should be able to use the force of government for those things too? To stop those things? And the only reason they're stopping it is because it's competition. It's no other reason than that. It's competition. And the other thing is, it stops the monopoly of the cab drivers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's both. It's stopping the monopoly of the cab drivers, and it's messing with the government thing. Because the government and the cab drivers got a good little thing going. It's a very localized level of, fascism. But in all honesty, the cab company owners are kind of fascists. I mean, you've seen a cabbie. Sometimes they get a little fascist about their stuff. Now, it's a very limited fascism. It's only picking up a ride fascism, but it's fascism nonetheless.
Well, and there's the car sharing.
Vehicular fascism.
Yes. Vehicular fascism. I guess is that a good way of saying it, Danielle?
Sure. Okay. There's also like the car sharing service where you pay, a monthly fee. And this way, and you kind of sign out the car for the hours that you need it, instead of having the expense of owning a car and the maintenance on it and, all the insurance and everything. You basically pay a fee to be able to use a car, when you need it. And even that now is being taxed and trying to be regulated by the government, where it's like literally like a timeshare for cars.
Yeah. And they're taxing the crap out of it now.
Yep.
And again, who's going to use that? It's not like a bunch of rich people are using it. They're like, well, we're not taxing the rich on this one. Yeah. We're taxing the person that can't afford a car. Right. I would imagine if we're looking at where they're at on the scale of income, higher to lower, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say they're probably on what you would consider to be the lower side. So great job, legislature, wanting to pass a tax that's going to tax lower income people even more money. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great friggin' job. God, you people piss me off. It's like when there's a solution that people are trying to do something, the free market is going to work. They hate competition. They just hate it has nothing to do with more government forces. They hate competition, and they want to make sure that they can control it themselves. That's what it is. So anybody that's in office right now that's against this thing, statist, vehicular fascist, burn in hell.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just saying.
I think that about sums it up.
I will say this though with the Uber website though, like that is so not what's happening.
Yeah, I know.
Like the commercials are so like yeah. Piss off on that one though.
Yeah.
I mean, I like guys, but like I don't need the guy coming out of the car in like a Mercedes walking out. Like that's what Uber's going to be, right? Okay. There's not going to be any Mercedes in the Uber. Oh, we got to take a break? Oh. Sorry. Music coming. Oh, there we go. We got to take a break. All right, hour number one's in the bag. By the way, if you want to call the program, the number's 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032. Our website, 1787network.com. We'll be back.
This is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street, just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
All right, we're back. Liberty Underground Show, 1787network.com. Telephone number, Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032. That's Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032. You know what I'm saying, right, Danielle?
Really?
You know what's going on? Why don't you tell us what you got going on over there, Danielle, with your business? Can I do the whole hour in that voice?
No.
Would you get mad at me?
I'm already mad.
Just that you heard just a little bit of it
Yes,
like that?
even just as soon as the voice comes out, because number one, I know it doesn't stop.
What do you mean it doesn't stop?
And I just don't like it.
You don't like the voice, huh?
No, not at all.
I feel bad that you don't like the voice, actually. I really do,
There's
actually.
other voices that you do that I don't mind. That is not one of them.
Which voice do I do that you don't mind?
I don't mind when you do like the New Yorker voice so much, but I don't like it if you.
Why don't you tell us about your school card, huh? I'm sorry, go ahead. Like that voice?
Yeah, I don't mind it, but I don't want you to do it at the wrong times and just not stop.
Oh, so now it's the right time thing. It's the timing thing, huh?
Like you do this on purpose.
Yeah, I do. Sorry. I got to have my little joys in life too, right? You know what I'm saying? Like we got to have some joys here.
I guess.
All right. Well, what are we going to get into in this hour, Danielle?
Well, and we talked about it last week. We actually kind of teased this a little, but the Liberty First Network has done our legislative scorecard. And we've seen these scorecards a lot by, AFP puts one out. I think the Heritage Foundation puts one out. Chamber of Commerce puts one out. And they always give they grade only on the bills that they kind of push. Like whatever action alerts you've seen come from AFP this year is what they're going to have in their scorecard. Like, and that's it. There's not going to be anything else. They only care about the bills that they were specifically involved in.
Correct.
So they have a very skewed way of voting because they only vote to, how did you work for us?
Yeah.
Not how did you work for the people.
Or how did you work for Liberty?
Or how you worked for Liberty.
Even though they will try to mislead people into thinking that they do.
Yeah, and we'll get into that even in the third hour because AFP has just gone off the deep end with
Oh.
spin.
Well, I wouldn't say they've gone off the deep end. I'd say they were there all the time. They just kind of showed you where they were.
Now they're just peeing.
Going off the deep end meant that they were somewhere else before that.
So the Liberty First Network wanted to put together a scorecard that was completely just kind of an unbiased look. Most of the things that we actually put out, most of the action alerts that we put out are actually not on our scorecard at all. Basically because we put it out in an action alert, the bill didn't go anywhere, it was stopped at that point, so there was no need to include it.
Correct.
There is one that we put out an action alert that is on here, but other than that, we really kind of kept it.
Well, that was only on one of the scorecards.
Only on the Senate, because it was only voted on the Senate. So
correct.
We were very careful to kind of look through. There was 1,880 pieces of legislation in total.
Wow.
Only 255 went to the governor's desk. Although I say only, that's still a large amount of legislation.
It's a bunch of bad business.
Bunch of bad stuff. So we kind of went through there and really tried to take a very unbiased look at all the legislation and what we thought were a good judge of liberty for the Florida legislature this year.
Yes.
What we did was we went through the bills. We did not look at voting records when we went through the bills. So we had no idea who voted on what. We didn't know who the sponsors were. We had no idea. We were literally just reading content of bills.
Correct.
We chose 18 in the House and the Senate that are the same, that were voted on in both the House and the Senate are going to the governor's desk. So 18 of the bills are exactly the same on both sides. They passed both houses and are going to the governor's desk. In the House and in the Senate, we picked two bills that House voted on that the other one didn't. So these are not going to become laws, but we felt they were important to liberty. So there's two of those in each of the houses.
Correct.
The legislators were given 5 points for if they supported liberty. That means either voting against a bad bill or voting for a good bill. They got -5 for voting against liberty, and they got 0 for not voting.
Which matters.
Which does matter, and we'll get to that kind of towards the end, but that does actually played a huge role in some people's grading.
Yes, one in particular.
Yeah. So because they could go negative, we gave them a very wide berth for grades. So an 80 to 100, an 81 to 100 is an A, 61 through 80 is a B, 41 through 60 is a C, a 21 through 40 would be a D, and then anything below that would be an F. We picked 5 additional bills in each house that were positive bills. These were good pieces of liberty legislation that went nowhere. It never got heard by a committee. It got killed from the beginning. So we gave the sponsor of that bill 10 points for standing up for liberty. We gave all the co-sponsors of the same bill 5 additional points for standing up for liberty. So there was a total of 100 points that you could get just regular legislation, and you could get extra bonus points for sponsoring or co-sponsoring a bill that was a liberty piece of legislation that, because of things beyond your control, never got heard, but you were willing to take a stand for liberty. So there are some bills that we didn't include, and these are going to be some that people are going to really kind of wonder why we didn't include them. And, like an example of that would be like HB 921, SB 864, which on the surface looks like it gives more local control to the school boards to pick materials for classroom instruction. So we would always want more local control. So on the surface, this would seem like a great bill. But when you read into it, what it also does is make sure that you have to comply with Florida statutes, Next Generation Sunshine State Standards, which is defined as Common Core.
Correct.
You also have your funding is still tied to the test scores being Common Core, and these are Common Core compliant test scores. So if your funding, your teacher merit pay is all tied to how well your children do on the state test, a standardized test, and there's really, how we looked at it, is no choice. You have to choose Common Core standards because that's what's in the statutes. Your funding is going to be based on a standardized test, so you're going to use whatever the state recommends because that's what's going to give you the best instruction for the test.
Yeah, and we also didn't put in Charlotte's Web because, look, you can get stronger stuff at GNC right now than
Whole
what that
Foods.
stuff at Whole Foods and what that and
Yeah,
what that
hemp
crap
mustard
is.
has more THC.
Yeah. So that one didn't matter. And the other one was the immigration ones didn't matter because, again, learning process is going along. The ones for the immigration ones, when it came to the in-state tuition stuff, it's a subsidy for everybody. We're against the subsidy, so we would go against it anyway. But we go against it because we're against the subsidy. By the letter of the law, the way that it's set up is that those people there's a difference between coming here illegally and being undocumented. There actually is a difference between the two. There's two specific things: being illegal, being undocumented. If you're a kid that was forced here, you're actually undocumented, and by the law right now, you become not a citizen, but you can become a permanent resident. You can never vote, but you could be here as a permanent resident. That's the case. Then it does adjust how you would look at those things. Same with the law one. But instead, again, we had disagreements with ourselves on this one, so we just said, screw it, we're not putting those in there. So those aren't even in here.
Right. So these are 20 bills, that have to do with liberty that aren't even the bills that, for the most part, you've heard of.
Yep.
So, I'll go through the bills.
Well, let's alternate this one because I like talking too.
Okay.
All right, you start with the first one though. You go first, and we'll go one, alternate back and forth, back and forth.
Okay.
All right, see if we can out entertain each other.
Yeah, I don't even. I'm going to be entertained for you trying to explain legislation.
Well, you're going to be entertained. This will be
Can't
fun.
wait.
Okay. The first bill that we used was the threatened use of force, which is HB 89, which we talked about actually a lot on this show. This would be the warning shot bill that if you were in a situation where you would have normally been able to use deadly force because you were defending your life, you would be able to also shoot a warning shot or some other thing and would not fall into the 10-20 life, which is where you were falling into it up to this point. If you had fired a warning shot and you didn't actually use deadly force, you were not able to use a self-defense criminal defense, and you were actually, because of mandatory minimums, sometimes getting life sentences, even though you were literally in self-defense. We actually supported this bill. It did pass the House 93-24 and the Senate 32-7.
The second one, licensure to carry a concealed weapon or firearm. What this did is that in order to get a concealed weapons permit, normally you had to go up to Tallahassee to get this thing done, or send your paperwork in there, and then they send it back to you. Now you can go to your local tax collector's office and you can get the concealed weapons carry permit at your local tax collector's office. This is going to be a way in which to allow more people to carry concealed, and we supported this bill, and it did pass 94-22 in the House and 35-0 in the Senate. So it was a blowout in the Senate. It was a blowout in the Senate. It was amazing. Fireworks played. It was awesome. So
HB 525. This is the public records exemption for using a tax collector's office to get a concealed weapons permit. Generally, everything that's gone through the tax collector's office becomes public record. But since they're moving concealed weapons in there, your information will be exempt from public records. So if you're, receiving or applying for a concealed carry license, you would not have to make your name and information public record.
And what happened there?
We supported that. It did pass the House 112-4 and the Senate 37-1.
All right, then. Now, the fourth one, and which is why I asked Danielle to go first, because I wanted to be able to say Pop-Tart bill. HB 7029, Code of Conduct for Students. This was nicknamed the Pop-Tart bill. Basically, what happened is that a little kid bit his pastry into the shape of a gun and was suspended from school for this because of zero-tolerance policies, basically. So, realizing that zero-tolerance policies are bad, but also realizing that they wanted to keep a really bad program, what they did was they made something called the Pop-Tart bill, which means that you are allowed for simulated gunplay now, which you can snap blocks together, or drawing something in the shape of a weapon, or eating your pastry in the shape of a weapon. This Pop-Tart bill was supported by us, even though it was stupid. It did pass the House 98-17 because there is 17 people that do think that you should have to be suspended if you eat your pastry in the shape of a Pop-Tart. And in the Senate, it was 32-6.
So even the Senate is dumb.
So even the Senate, you have basically 23 people in Tallahassee that think that you should be suspended for even eating your pastry in the shape of it. They're so anti-gun that you can't even eat your pastry in the shape of a gun, by the way. And clouds that look like guns, Jesus is getting suspended.
Yeah. So HB 7095, this is the professional sports facilities. We are vehemently opposed to this. What this would do is instead of the sporting arenas needing to go to the legislature every year to try to get their corporate welfare and get it passed and lobby for it, this is going to set up a separate Department of Economic Opportunity, which the department will then be funded, and they will be able to expend money to whomever they choose at any time. So it's actually just, high speeding money to billionaires for sports facilities. And it's just more subsidies of your taxpayer money to a large multi-million-dollar sports franchises. We did oppose this, but it did pass in the House 89-27 and in the Senate 35-3.
The only thing I will say is that there was more people in opposition to setting this up than there was to eating your pastry in the size of a gun. Or the shape of a gun.
Well, we got to cheer small wins.
Small wins where you get them. HB 53, inmate reentry. What this basically was doing was helping the criminals that were coming out of jail, or the maybe they weren't criminals, maybe they were just people that were in jail. But basically, if you were in jail and you get out, it was cutting the cost that you would have to have in order to obtain a driver's license, and it was also stopping that you wouldn't have to necessarily support or you have to go through Real ID the way everybody else does it. So they were making it a lot easier for convicted felons or for criminals when they're coming out of jail to be able to get their driver's license, and they don't have to go through Real ID. We do think that this is a violation of the law when it comes to equal protection under the law, and that even though we want to make sure that you're helping people as they're getting out of jail, making them not have. Here's the thing: why don't you make a law where nobody has to go through the Real ID process? That would have made a lot more sense, because you're setting up stupid laws anyway. You realize it's a stupid law, so now you're just going to make it so that the inmates don't have to do it? Okay, that's kind of dumb. They should have done one where everybody got away with it, but they didn't do that. This bill was then bad at that point because it was not equal protection under the law. It did pass, however, though, so we were opposed to it, but it did pass 116-1 and 36-0.
Now, number 7. Oh, I'm glad I got this one. The General Appropriations Act of
Damn it!
2014.
I forgot it was 7.
We were vehemently opposed to this, as should everyone. This is an increase in spending by nearly $6 billion in 1 year.
With a B.
With a B. This was a General Appropriations Act with a spending budget of $77.1 billion. This was the largest amount of handouts given to municipalities, counties, sports facilities and billionaires all over the place. $500,000 for the Mahaffey Theater, even though they didn't even ask for it. This was just an ungodly amount of spending of your money, $77.1 billion. We were greatly opposed to this, although it did pass 102-15 in the House, and the Senate was unanimous at 40-0.
Which also shows you how hypocritical the Democrats are. Because the Democrats, the head of the Democrats here, I think her name's Tate. It's the Tate. Taint comes out. Taint. Her name's Taint. So she comes out and it's like, this is a horrible piece of horrible legislation. What, were you mad they didn't round it up to an even $80 billion? Like, what's wrong with you? You should be happy with Rick Scott right now. You shouldn't be upset with Rick Scott. We both can't be mad at Rick Scott. All right? You're mad at Rick Scott. You can't be, because he spent $77.1 billion. You big spending money.
I do want to say that his original budget proposal for this year was only $74 billion, which was like a $2.5 billion increase for the year. And the legislature actually padded it with $3 billion more.
But dude's got veto ability and could have line item veto the billions of dollars that they added to it.
We'll go into that in the third hour.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry about that. So, but that did pass, though. Okay, now it's my turn. All right, HB 599, Public Records Automated License Plate Recognition System exemption. Now, you know that the license plate scanners are being used by law enforcement. These cameras capture the date, time, location of the vehicle of innocent truckers and motorists and retain data ranging from as little as a couple days to as long as a decade. What SB 226 would do is would implement a statewide policy to prohibit making this information public. It also allows the vehicle owner to access his or her own information. So, now the thing about this one is this. They shouldn't have these systems to begin with. I would be supportive of them getting rid of the systems themselves. However, and Danielle said this the other night, and I'm going to reiterate it right now, that wasn't the bill that they were talking about. This one was to make sure that they wasn't getting out to the general public. So, you got to look at it yay or nay based off of what it was. So we supported this one. It did pass 116-0 in the House and 38-1 in the Senate. So there was one senator, probably, I don't know which one it was, but there was one senator that was totally against this bill.
Yeah. So HB 7123, this is the motor vehicle and mobile home tax fee and surcharges. This is the rollback of the vehicle registration fee. This is a $395 million tax decrease, which means $18 for you. Woohoo! It's actually
It wasn't even a whole rollback. It was like a kind of rollback.
Yeah, it was. There was a $2 billion tax fee hike done in 2009. This would actually roll back $395 million of it. You're still paying a lot more. The average vehicle owner is actually going to see a $25 increase. Anyone with a small vehicle, because you can't afford the gas on a big vehicle, you're only going to see $18. So, again, this is one of those ones where as much we would love to have seen a lot more. We should have seen more, but this was the bill in front of us. More wasn't anything that we could judge. So we did support this bill because a tax decrease is a tax decrease regardless. This did pass the House 116-0 and in the Senate 40-0.
Next one is flood insurance. This was creating a regulatory framework for the private market flood insurance program in the state. It would encourage the use of private flood insurance, getting people out of Citizens, and it would also prohibit Florida Citizens Property Insurance Company from writing flood policies and prevents the reimbursement for flood losses from the Florida Hurricane Catastrophe Fund. Reduces taxpayer liability. Overall, a good bill. Passed 98-11 in the House, 30-3 in the Senate.
HB 209, this is number 11, carrying concealed weapon or concealed firearm. We supported this. This is one of the two bills in the House that did not ever make it to the Senate. This act would say that if you had a firearm and you were under a mandatory evacuation, you would be able to bring your firearm in a concealed manner, whether you had a concealed weapons license or not. This was a big deal during Hurricane Katrina, where no one was allowed to bring a weapon, whether they had a permit for it or not. That is what the law is also here in Florida. But what they did see happen in New Orleans during Katrina is that these weapons were left behind because they were being mandated to be left behind. Anyone that wasn't being left behind was being confiscated. And what ended up happening is looting happened throughout all the homes that were under mandatory evacuation, and a lot of legally owned by good citizens firearms ended up in the hands of criminals. This would have, allowed you to take your weapon with you so that it wouldn't end up in bad hands. And at the end of the day, you're a law-abiding citizen. You should be able to have a weapon, even especially in the time of an emergency. This was in the House. It did pass the House 80-36. It went over into messages in the Senate. The Senate never picked up the bill, so this will not become a law. But we did like it and wanted to give them credit for it, so we did support this bill in the House.
And this also was, the Sheriff's Association was vehemently against this because the Sheriff's Association was vehemently against you having weapons. Remember that when you're voting for sheriff. If those people support the Sheriff's Association, actually, what I would suggest...
We're not going to get through this if you keep commenting on mine.
All right, rental charge, surcharge. This is where if they have these, where everybody owns the vehicle, then what happens is that you got to pay $1 tax every day that you use the vehicle, $2 over 24 hours. This is to put a tax on car sharing services. And that's going to affect, again, poor and middle class people the most. Now this passed the House 115-0 and the Senate 40-0. So that means that there is not one person in Tallahassee that supports lower or middle class people.
Or small businesses.
Or lower and middle class people that have small businesses.
Exactly. Number 13 is HB 7053. This is the State Economic Enhancement and Development Trust Fund. This was basically the trust fund set up to fund the Department of Economic Opportunity that we talked about before. This is going to put millions of dollars into what's called the seed money. into this trust fund where unelected board, this committee is going to be able to dole out your taxpayer dollars to sports facilities all over the state without it even having to be looked at by your elected representatives. We were opposed to this bill. We're opposed to more spending, especially corporate welfare. But it did pass in the House 117-0 and in the Senate 40-0.
Which means we have nothing but corporatists in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Bicycle and pedestrian ways. This authorizes the Department of Transportation to fund an establishment of a statewide system of interconnected bike paths and bike trails. The goal is to link a series of existing but separate trails into one connected, continuous greenway system of bike paths and pedestrian trails all across Florida. Part of the statewide effort is the Coast to Coast Connector, which is a 275-mile project from Atlantic Ocean to Gulf Coast in Central Florida. So it would eventually tie the systems crisscrossing the state. This, of course, is stated as the goal of smart growth schemes, e.g. 750 in South Florida, or 7/50 in South Florida. And it will strip away our property rights by pushing us into high-density urban centers while focusing to relinquish our cars. But this is a bad bill all around. It's Agenda 21. And there was no money for roads in it. It was for bike paths. So they shouldn't have spent the money to begin with, but they didn't care because they passed it 113-4, and then the Senate was 39-0. Scumbags.
Number 15 is HB 7181. This is the public retirement plans. This would put any newly hired public employees into a 401k style investment plan instead of what's right now the pension plan. Currently, the Florida retirement system is the benefit system. It's bankrupting the state. It's an actually off budget line item, so nobody even sees this, but this is running in the negative every single year. A 401k system would be a lot less burden on the state. It would also bring in more money for the people when they retire, because a 401k gives a much larger return on investment than a pension plan. So retirees will get more money. The state will stop being bankrupted by the benefit system. So we absolutely supported this bill. It did pass in the House 74-44, but unfortunately the Senate did not find this to be a worthy bill and did not vote on it at all.
Oops. An admission tax under existing Florida law. Every person who sells or receives anything of value by way of admission is exercising a taxable privilege at the rate of 6% of the sales price. Section 212-04 of the Florida statutes exempts specified sports events from this admission tax, including all-star games produced by the National Football League, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, National Basketball Association, in addition, MLB Home Run Derby, held in conjunction with the MLB All-Star Game, the Rookie Challenge, Celebrity Games, three-point shootouts, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. With HB 213, the Major League Soccer All-Star Game was added to the list of events exempted from the sales tax of admission. It also replaces the list of specified NBA All-Star Games associated with events. Under current law, with language that includes all NBA produced all-star events held at the arena, convention centers, municipal facility, and other such facilities. As we mentioned earlier, the legislature uses taxpayer money to give major sports teams $2 million annually for 30 years. They receive numerous other tax benefits at our expense. HB 231 is just another corporate welfare break to billionaire owners while taxpayers foot the bill. We opposed it, and that's why it passed 114-0 and 37-2.
Okay, HB 1237 and SB 1632. This is the special taxing districts. We supported this. What SB 1632 did is require special taxing districts to maintain a high degree of accountability and transparency in regard to the expenditures of taxpayer money. Special taxing districts actually has basically they can tax you. So we see a lot of this in the DDAs, the CDDs, and things like that, where they are levying their own tax, but they don't have to tell you what they're spending your money on. This would stop that and make them be responsible to you to say what your money is going to. You basically elect these people to tax you. You should know what they're spending the money on so that you know whether you should elect them again. We supported this bill. It did pass the House 115-0 and in the Senate 38-0.
All right, next one is HB 1385, Inspector General. This is basically they were setting up a government agency to watch for waste, fraud, and abuse within the system. It allowed the Inspector General to report waste and fraud in an agency without fear of retribution by law. We actually like the bill. It did pass the House 114-0 and the Senate 37-1, but I'm sure that the government will find a way to mess it up.
Number 19 is HB 115. This is providing an exemption for public meeting requirements for any portion of meetings held by a university that would be about funding university research. So basically at this time, if a university, a state university is doing any research on anything, then they have to tell you who's funding the research. This would actually make it to where they could fund research without telling us. And that because, research is very much used to create laws, public policy. We were opposed to the funding source of it being withheld from public record, but it did pass. So we were opposed to the bill. It did pass the House 83-33 and in the Senate 36-2.
And in number 20 in the House, and then we'll go to Brandon, is a victim of wrongful incarceration. Basically, this says if you were a victim of wrongful incarceration and you were let out, but you haven't been found not guilty, then you didn't have the... Danielle, why don't you explain this one? We'll give you 20. We'll give you double up at the end.
Okay. What this would do is right now, if you were currently incarcerated and you were found to be wrongfully incarcerated, that they did not have enough evidence to hold you, you would be released. But if they didn't exonerate you, then you would not be able to sue for wrongful incarceration. That means you could have spent 20, 30 years in jail with a lack of evidence to even hold you in there. And when you got out, they just say, yeah, good luck. And you wouldn't be able to sue because you weren't technically exonerated. This would change that, give you legal standing. And at the end of the day, if they don't have enough evidence to find you guilty, then you should be presumed innocent. You should have the same rights as anyone who is actually exonerated. Now, do you want to go through the two in the Senate that were not caught up in the House before we go to Brandon?
Up to you.
We'll do those two, and then we'll go back to this after Brandon.
That's fine.
Okay. Let me get through them quickly. All right. This was the two that were heard in the Senate that were not heard in the House would be SB 1576. This is the spring bill. The Florida legislature has basically been on a war against any private property owner that owns a septic tank. They want to get you on the county or the city system. So they've been requiring large amounts of regulations, inspections and things like that never were needed before. And these septic tanks have not been an issue. So we were opposed to this bill. It did pass the Senate 38-0, but it did die in the House. So that was a bad bill that ended up it will not be law this year. But the Senate did vote for it 38-0. And the last one that was in the Senate did not go over to the House is SB 1714, which we talked about all the time. That was the fight on craft breweries. This would have, very much damaged the craft brewery industry and taking them out of the tourism exemption, which we absolutely feel like they should be in, and would force them at a certain level to be in the three-tier system. This did pass the Senate 30-10, but did not pass the House.
Yep. Now, if you do want to see this, you go to libertyfirstfl.org. That's libertyfirstfl.org. You can see the scorecard, but we're going to get back to that after Brandon. But right now, Brandon from the Global Dispatch. Brandon, how you doing, sir?
Oh, what a beautiful, blessed day. Thanks for having me, guys.
Are you doing well, sir?
Always.
Well, let's go into what you think. What's the biggest story that you have going on the Global Dispatch?
Oh, it's been a crazy week. Just kind of all sorts of bizarre stories that kind of keep popping up and then go away, popping up and go away. I mean, let's run down a list and you can pick and choose which ones you want to talk about. Obviously, sex change coverage moving forward for Medicare patients. We have, an assassination attempt on the Afghanistan, one of the presidents for candidate there. Bashar Assad wins re-election in Syria, and all sorts of kind of bizarre, religious-based stories. And then, of course, chikungunya breaks out in Mississippi. So lots of stories that kind of pop up, do a little bit, and kind of go away. But it's been that kind of week.
Let's go with the Obama administration moves ahead to approve sex change coverage for Medicare patients. What's that all about?
Yeah, I think that's our headline right now. It's kind of an interesting, thing out of Health and Human Services. They move forward to change some of the language around. So basically, we're going to pay for seniors to go through this procedure. It will be Medicare approved.
So seniors will be able to get sex change operations, and that it's covered underneath the Medicare?
That's what they're moving for. And right now, this decision by the panel, the oversight panel, removes the restrictions, so now we'll go to the local administrators. So if it passes at the federal level, the higher level like this, it usually just goes right down to down the pike for everyone else. So the local administrators will certainly follow suit and approve that to be paid for.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't even know what to say.
I know. I felt the same way. I'm like, wait a minute. We have contraceptive mandates in Obamacare, and people are upset about all that. And then you have something like this that kind of just goes through completely unscathed. Nobody ever acknowledges or says anything about it, and it just kind of passes the panel without any real objection or anything like that. No one really was there to stand up and say or do anything.
That's unbelievable. It really is. It's elective surgery, man. It shouldn't be covered under Medicaid. It shouldn't be covered. Look, if you want to have an insurance plan that covers that kind of thing, then okay, go with it. But not the government insurance plan. I mean, that's an expensive procedure. That ain't a cheap procedure. That takes a while. You got a lot of drugs you got to give people, and you got to cut their stuff and then move their stuff around. And there's a lot of plumbing work. And would you really want government doctors handling that kind of thing? Oh boy, there's so many problems.
Scarier thing is that it's government doctors doing it.
Here's the thing: the one thing, and I did read a little bit of the article. He talked at the end is for people that are transgender or misidentified or whatever. If you ain't figured out which one you are by the time you're a senior, then you're stuck with what you got. All right, let's just make a rule. You're stuck with what you got. All right. If you had the plumbing,
and a half to figure that out.
Yeah. You ain't like you got much time left to use it the other way anyway. Nor would you.
I don't have a problem with it. It's just the government ain't paying for it.
Exactly.
If you want to do it at 75, that's fine. I am not surprised that our government officials that have no balls are willing to pay to take yours off.
That's a very good point, by the way. It's a very good point, by the way, Greg. I appreciate you coming on board with that one. Now, you know what? We didn't talk about this. What was your thoughts on Jay Carney resigning?
Oh, wasn't that a little interesting backdoor news? That was actually probably our biggest story of the entire week. We kind of included that with coverage. That was our headlines late Friday and into Saturday. We talked about the head of the VA administration. That kind of made a little bit of press, but they kind of snuck Jay Carney's resignation in there as well, and not much was said about that. But yeah, poor Jay. He's now he can move on to nice speaking jobs and a gushy position in a think tank like Think Progress or something.
Yeah, well, because he's a commie. I mean, there's no getting around Jay Carney. That's like Baghdad Bob.
Oh yeah, it's not a bad thing to call him a socialist. I mean, he probably wears it as badge of honor. It's not a negative thing.
He puts up posters in his kitchen.
To Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing. He puts up posters of it in his kitchen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no getting around that one.
Well, it's not a pejorative to him.
Yes, it's not a pejorative at all. Now, you know what? I really wanted to get Brandon's take on this one. What about the story of the sergeant that was in Afghanistan, Bergdahl, that was kidnapped? What's your overall take on this whole situation?
Well, it was just such a bizarre tactic to kind of shift the discussion. So we got a couple different layers here. Obviously, now it has become very public. We published right away that there had been several reports about this guy going AWOL, walking off the base. People that really do believe that he may have actually fell in with the enemy to give out locations at that because the group had fallen under attack. People have gotten hurt and killed. It's gotten even more disparaging even since then. From a political standpoint, you start to become more of a conspiracy theorist. So what's the actual motivation to? Why we give up 5 for 1? You can examine the 5 that we did give up. We gave away really kind of some heavy hitters from a terrorist standpoint. We did give away, this isn't like bin Laden's driver. These are actual leaders and figureheads that other countries didn't want. We couldn't get the Yemeni government to take these people. We couldn't get the Pakistanis to take these people, and we've kind of now traded them back out into the open. From a theory standpoint, I will say I believe this will be a great tactic they can use now to continue to move forward to pressuring the closure of Gitmo. That the Guantanamo Bay, closing Guantanamo Bay was kind of a sticking point because the prisoners of this high level are not the prisoners that anybody wants at their local jail. They don't want it to be associated. They don't want them on American soil, those kinds of things. To take them out of that equation makes it easier for the Obama administration to move that plan forward.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, it's just it's a big bad mess too. By the way, now one thing that was mentioned here that you did about the Christian baker that Jack Phillips, who was ordered by his court to make cakes for the gay wedding. Now, I didn't understand something on this one. Are they literally saying that even that, like, he can't just stop doing business making cakes? He has to make them a cake?
It's kind of a gray area because he has elected to, at least for now, just make cookies. He's not making cakes.
And
now, the problem
cupcakes.
is he's forcing tolerance programs for employees and things. He has to go through like a 2-year monitoring system for them to kind of keep an eye on him to make sure that he is, quote, offering them that he'll give them the appropriate services. But I don't know the language really spells out, by the way, if they come in and order a cake, you have to make them a cake if you're not making cakes for other people.
This is the weird.
But you guys were talking vehicular fascism earlier. Isn't this a form of, hey, listen, it's our way or no way. We'll shut you down and regulate you till the end, till you go broke. That's what basically happened to the other group that were in Oregon. They regulated it to the point where they just went bankrupt.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that people should have the freedom and the right to protest a group and expose them if they don't like the behavior that they were doing, to the point where they would be put out of business. But at the same time, if a dude doesn't want to make a gay couple a cake, then he doesn't have to make a gay couple a cake. I mean, you should have the freedom to do business with who you want to do business with.
I would make the worst cake for them ever if I was forced to make a cake. I mean, like, it would just look horrible.
Yeah, look,
that's why forcing him to make a cake is just a bad idea.
Like, I'd be like, oops, sorry.
You know what? And let me give you a take on this one, though, more of a societal take. We don't want to push racism down. What you want to be able to do is to expose it. Look, if somebody's being a racist or somebody's being a bigot or somebody's being a homophobe or whatever it is that they want to do, and you got a problem with it, then let it be exposed. Don't try to hide it. Again, because you're going to get somebody spitting in your damn cake if that's the case. You know what I mean? Or somebody,
more importantly, police it through the free market, right? Let's go ahead and just decide, listen, that guy's a baker that doesn't like homosexuals because I'm a homosexual or I support it. I don't want to give them my money. Mm-hmm. And they'll eventually go broke, or I'll go open my own cake-making company. That's the way this should appropriately be handled. He has the freedom to be an idiot. He has the freedom to be a jerk. He has the freedom to do all those things.
Yeah, exactly. Look, if you wanted to make Big Gay Al's cakes across the street from this guy's cake place, go with it. You know what I mean? Let the free market rule in this instance. But they don't want to, because they want to be able to force people to do things. And honestly, if anything, shame on the gay guys or gay girls for suing them for this. They should have just been like, well, you know what? Let's protest this guy. Let's do this other thing. No, you wanted to get the law involved.
Looks like there's a gap in the marketplace that needs to be filled. I'd open a bakery.
Yeah, they should have found one of their gay friends that liked to cook stuff and said, hey man, why don't you open a bakery right there? We'll start doing business with you. Maybe they just started, and maybe that guy would have had to change his mind. Do you think he's going to change his mind now? Hell no, he's not going to change his mind. He's more solidified than ever because you forced him. So, at any rate, now I wanted to get your take on this too. Boy, it's a lot of things I wanted to get Brandon's take on right now. The next one was Lucas Overby. They did, St. Pete Polls came out with a poll, and they had Jolly at 47.8%, Overby at 30.8%. I have some questions for you, Brandon, as it relates towards this.
Okay.
All right. The first one is, you knew they were going to poll this thing. Is this where you thought he would be?
Oh, no, he's doing way better than I thought he would. It's much faster than I thought it would be.
So where did you think a poll right now would have had him at?
20, low 20 in that realm. Just kind of I expected a much greater undecided number, and the independents are not polling at all where I thought they would. So that actually all favors Overby at the moment. Okay,
now that was going to lead to my next question here. When you looked at the inside data on things, what were some of, was there anything that surprised you from the Democrat back and forth?
It shouldn't have, but it did. It shouldn't have because Jolly barely beat Fink. It just shows how much the Democrats are mobilized against this guy. They do not like this guy. So Overby has done a very good job of people saying, listen, I'm going to come out and I'm going to vote for anyone against Jolly. So it's not even really about issues for most of the Democrats that have slipped already, even though there are issues there that they may find appealing. The independents in targeting that group is going to be the key for him, is to make sure that he points out the differences, especially now that Jolly has a voting record that he can point to say, listen, this guy may have told you X, but look at how he's already voting. He's only been there for a couple months. So can you really trust him that he's going to be voting the way you want him to? Is that really, especially if he can really target, freedom-minded Republicans, the ones that want to, align themselves with, say, a Tea Party mantra, those kinds of things, he should be able to siphon off a decent percentage there and then really be within striking distance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you're right. It was funny that you had the Democrats already at 43 to 27. I was a little surprised at the 27 number for Jolly. I was a little surprised there. I actually thought the number for Jolly was going to be lower on the Dem side. And I was a little surprised on the one for the GOP side. I actually thought that the number was going to be higher on the GOP side for Overby. But considering what we've seen with some of the elections, maybe that was a little bit wrong on my part. And the independent one, you're right. I was really surprised on that one.
And I think it is important to discuss that because most libertarians don't want to discuss the fact there are a lot of Democrats that will vote Republican before they vote for a libertarian. They are brainwashed into a two-party system, just as there are Republicans that are brainwashed into a two-party system. There are Democrats that will not vote for a libertarian because of the free market principles that libertarians stand for. They believe the GOP are fraud. They know the GOP is a big government scam. They know that the Republicans are going to, Rick Scott just put forward this behemoth of a budget to prove that he's not about cutting spending or whatever. So the libertarian may actually be serious on that. So that's actually kind of a deterrent. So the numbers falling out there from the Democrats, I think, is pretty much where a lot of that's going to land. The key now for Overby, in my opinion, would be to target the independents and making sure that you're getting out to the right kind of people.
I wasn't surprised by the Democrat being so high for Jolly either. And the reason why is because you see a lot of the media actually portrays libertarians as Republicans, but they portray them as Republicans like Rand Paul and stuff like that, which to a Democrat is, a huge stifling of, the middle and lower class. So because we're a lot of times being kind of defined in the media, I could definitely see a large number of Democrats that are looking at that definition in the media and going, well, I can't vote for that.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying right there. It is. Now, let me ask you.
I just want to add one more thing on Lucas. I don't know if his folks are listening, but the advice that I'd have is, and again, I'm a very social conservative, and I separate myself, I think, from most of the group that's in the room. And I think one of the things that Lucas has to do to make sure he appeals to a group like me is to, even though he may disagree with me on those issues, some of these social issues, he really needs to be aggressive of saying, listen, that's not going to be my job. I'm not going to Washington to vote on abortion. I'm not going to Washington to vote on gay marriage. I'm not going to Washington to vote on some of these things. If you're interested in someone who's, that's your priority, then I don't know that you're looking at the world the same way I am. And I think that can still be appealing.
Yeah, well, we'll see what he does. Now, last question about Lucas. Given these are the polling numbers right now, as of today, do you think he can? Do you think he has that he has a shot of winning this race?
Of course.
Do you think that? Yeah, did you think that he has a better shot than you thought before you saw these numbers?
Maybe a little bit, just because it's so fast. We're so early. This almost guarantees a debate, and that can only bear well for him to see that he can close that deal or not. I think that the biggest eye-opener really was Jolly barely beat Zink. This was a district that has never been close in 30 years, 40 years? I mean, Young didn't have a close race, I think, since the 70s. So, this isn't a district that has kind of given the GOP a fear at all, and it was so close that he edged out Zink. So it's showing that it's a district that is really in a lot of turmoil towards Republicans and turmoil towards their thought of how they want to go forward.
All right, one more question. Man, I got little questions pop up from here and there. Do you think that Jolly's wife being so mad at Jolly...
You mean Young's wife.
Or Young's wife, I'm sorry. Do you think that Young's wife being so mad at Jolly and what's going on with there is having an effect?
Well, it can, because it's making press. Anything that makes press, but the worst part there that for Lucas is that can be a lot of Republicans who may, on the surface, seem like they're going to support him, but they'll just no vote, or they'll just stay home. They won't actually support him, which is a shame. They'll just hold out for the opportunity to try again in 2016, which is really a shame. You really don't want that. You don't want the Young vote, the influence from the Young family to be also anti everyone else except for her. And that's the part that I think that the press is playing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. One more question. I got one more. I'm sorry. I got questions here. This is, and I like asking Brandon because he gives you like a weird answer. Not a weird answer, but he doesn't give us our answer on this stuff sometimes. Do you think that the fact that there's no Democrat in the race, and yet that's Charlie Crist's county, basically, that he lives in, and Prop 2 is going to be on the ballot, do you think that lends itself to give Overby a big advantage here, one that can overcome the money?
Advantage is not the word I can agree with, but it definitely raises the stakes and makes it more realistic.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair. That's fair right there. That's fair.
Advantage is the word I'd have to strike out of that. Yep.
All right. Last thing. Preview The Walking Dead season 5. What was this all about? There's a preview out for The Walking Dead.
Quotes there. You get some good quotes from the creators. They're promising a trailer next month, so we'll have our first trailer already. But you get the makeup guy talking a little bit about what he did the first episode. You get him talking about some of the Walker effects and some good stuff. So hey, listen, you gotta feed the fans along a little bit. So there's a little bit of a teaser there for you.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right. Well, his name is Brandon. The website is theGlobalDispatch.com. Again, Brandon, we appreciate your opinions, your commentary. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. I know that Danielle and Greg love it as well, even though they don't get to talk as much because I ask a lot of the questions. But we thank you very much for your time, sir.
No problem. You guys take care. Have a good weekend and talk hard.
Talk hard. Always like that. Talk hard. It was a good time. All right. Well, we got 10 minutes left. So now we've gone through all the bills.
Right.
Where do they end up at? So how many A's did we get, Danielle?
0.
No A's, huh?
No one got an A.
All right. Okay. So we got no A's. I bet you we got a lot of B's, though. How many B's did we get?
1.
1 B.
Yes.
Who was that?
John Tobiah.
John Tobiah. Who's John Tobiah?
I know, that's what everyone says. John Tobiah is a representative in a part of Brevard. He is actually the only Republican that voted against the $77 billion budget. Very often he breaks party lines. He's one of the only Republicans to break party line, and he votes for liberty more often than not. He got a B- with a total of 65 out of 100 points.
And if he'd have co-sponsored a couple things, he might have been be able to move to an A.
Yeah, he actually was the only one who could have made an A. He didn't sponsor a lot of stuff. He did co-sponsor the Second Amendment Preservation Act, so he got 5 extra points for that. But he was the only one that, with some of the extra points, could have really pulled an A.
So, and we had 3 people with C's.
3 people in the House.
In the House with C's.
This was Ray Rodriguez, Dane Eagle, and Jimmy Smith. There was a 60 for Ray Rodriguez. Dane Eagle got a 50, and Jimmy Smith got a 45. These are, they stand up for liberty sometimes. Sometimes they fall in line. All 3 of them got a lot of extra, 2 of Ray Rodriguez and Dane Eagle got a lot of extra points for sponsoring liberty legislation. Even Jimmy Smith got an extra 5 points for the Second Amendment Preservation Act. They got C's. I wouldn't necessarily endorse them for re-election. But make sure that the person that you're going to vote for instead of them is better.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Because they're not the worst.
Yeah, because they're not the worst. And everybody else was a D and an F.
Yeah, everyone else was a D. Now, some of the D pluses that were kind of right on that line with 40s. So they would, one more point and they would have been in the C range, would be Matt Caldwell and Debbie Mayfield and Greg Stube.
Stewie.
Yeah. So they were right on that line. Everyone else just did abysmal. And this is the House. We do see kind of a party line in the House where, there are several, there's a large amount of Democrats that basically, because we were so Second Amendment heavy in the first part of the, the first few bills, that they did, they all voted badly on anything that had to do with Second Amendment. So you see a lot of the Democrats did, very, very bottom towards the list. But all in all,
they were mixed in, though.
There was Democrats mixed in all over, though. What we did find in the House is that Democrats do not fall in line as well as Republicans do.
Surprisingly enough, yes.
Yeah.
Now, the lowest one
is Perry Thurston.
Perry E. Thurston Jr.
Yeah.
is actually how you would say that.
He has a negative 30.
Otherwise known as authoritarian psychopath.
Yeah, he has a negative 30, so he did have an F. Basically, the average score overall in the House was a 16. The Republicans' average score was a 24. The Democrats' average score was a 2.8.
They're really dragging those Republicans down from, well, you really can't say they're dragging them down because that's like saying that, the Marianas Trench is somehow dragging them down from the bottom of the ocean.
At the end of the day, they got Fs. The majority, out of 120 legislators, 100 of them got an F.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's put it in perspective.
Now, let's go to the Senate.
The Senate is even more abysmal than the House.
Unbelievable.
What we did find in the Senate is that the Republicans never break rank. The Democrats almost always do. They're completely mixed, and they're all horrible. In the Senate, there is one C. That's Senator Greg Evers. Senator Evers actually has a C, not because of his voting record, but because he literally sponsored every piece of liberty legislation. He had something to do with it.
Yeah, he was either the sponsor or the co-sponsor of all of them.
So he got a lot of points for that. Other than that, his voting record was
Like he'd have been an F without that.
Right. But he stands up for liberty and then votes the wrong way.
Yes. That is very funny, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Everyone's, of course, in Pinellas County, everyone's got the, Jeff Brandes. He's such a libertarian. He failed. He got a 15, and the only reason he has a 15 is because he did co-sponsor two pieces of liberty he sponsored one piece of liberty legislation, which is the red light camera repeal that he does every year. If not, he would have had a 5, but he did end up with a 15 out of 100. He was in 5th place behind Democrat Jeff Clemens.
Which Jeff Clemens, in all reality, is, and this is the part that gets weird, is because you do rank them. So you're like, are you saying that Jeff Clemens is better than Jeff Brandes? Look,
Jeff Clemens got an F too.
They both got Fs. The difference is that it was the votes on the issues. Again, how did you vote?
Now, the one person who is probably going to surprise a lot of people is going to be Joe Negron, who is almost down to the very, very bottom of the list. He is the lowest ranking Republican in the Senate. And there's a little bit of a reason for that. Is Joe Negron is the chair of the Appropriations Committee. The Appropriations Committee is the only committee in the Senate that actually meets all throughout, basically up until almost the end. So as everybody, no one else is in committee meetings. They're just voting on the floor. Joe Negron's committee is still meeting. However, they do make exceptions where Joe Negron could go in, he could make his vote, and then go back to the committee meeting. He did not do so. Anything that he thought was uncontroversial, that was, going to be an easy vote, he just chose not to vote. He has a lot of negatives because of that, and very little positives because it was only the ones he was vehemently, going to vote for that he went and voted. And they were generally bad bills, but for the most part, Joe Negron has a negative 15 because he didn't vote.
Yeah.
He didn't vote almost the whole time. And as much as we were going to put in kind of a little disclaimer for Joe Negron, I let his score stand, and for this reason only, that at the end of the day, Joe Negron is not the Speaker of the House or the Senate President. He cannot, he cannot sway what legislation is heard. He's not actually representing the people in that fashion. His representation of the people is only his vote, and he failed to do that.
So out of the 20 votes, 7 of them he didn't even vote for.
Yes, for 7 out of 20.
And 8 of them were bad votes.
Yeah. And, and that's because he voted for the Appropriations Act. He voted to regulate small business. I mean, he even voted for the craft brewery bill.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not one of the 10 Republicans that voted, the 10 that voted against it.
Definitely not what you would consider to be, libertarian material.
No, at the end of the day, he didn't show up.
I mean, you can talk about it. You can say you're a libertarian all day long, but when you do that, you're not. And the average score for the Republicans in the Senate, 3.65 out of 100. And for the Democrats, the average score...
Negative 7.5.
Negative 7.5.
But at the end of the day, they almost everybody failed in the Senate, and they all voted almost the same on most issues, just 1 or 2 here and there. But most things passed unanimously in the Senate. All bad things passed unanimously.
A lot of bad things. It shows that tyranny has a bipartisan support.
At least in the Senate it does.
Now, if you would like to see a copy of this, you can go to libertyfirstfl.org, and you can see a copy of that there, which is nice for you. You should like yourself. So far, 1,334 views. Just to let you know in the script. Because we got the script too, you know what I'm saying? All right. Hour number 2 in the bag. Hour number 3 is coming up. We're getting ready to call public policy polling. We'll be live on Tan Talk 1340 at that time, too. So no cursing, people. If you do want to call in the program, 1-800-525-4032. We'll be back. Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street, just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
his hand, don't be mistaken. I believe in peace, but I won't be taken. I will not submit to authoritative man. I'm ready to die, but not for love. See the signs appear, it's gonna happen here.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandre, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Clearwater, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground. Along with me, the Duchess of Doing Stuff, Tribley's favorite libertarian, also Pinellas County's favorite libertarian, Danielle Alexandre. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Are you doing well?
Yeah, the list just keeps growing. Huh?
Oh, yeah, you're everybody's favorite. Also in studio with us is Greg, who, when it comes to things that are sinister, takes a leading role in being the prime minister of those things. Greg Bowen, how are you doing, sir?
Great. How you doing?
You like that? It was good.
I did.
That's two different ones in the same show, if you believe that or not. If you want to hear the first one, 1787network.com, you go back to hour number 1. You can hear the beginning, along with a lot of other good information that was going on out there. But we only got an hour on Tan Talk 1340. We love it very much. So let's get started.
Let's call PPP.
Let's call PPP. Every week, we make a call to public policy polling to ensure that they put Adrian Wiley's name on the ballot. Or on the poll for governor.
He's already on the ballot.
He's already on the ballot. We already did that this week. And that he is on the poll for governor of Florida. So what we're going to do now is we're going to give our call to old Dino to public policy polling to make sure that he gets his weekly reminder to put Adrian on the thing. And I actually think he likes to take this opportunity to get a little cat nap underneath his desk so we can take a little break. God, I hope he picks up the phone this time. When's the last time they did a poll? Did they do a poll recently?
Well, I'm looking.
When was this one done?
I don't know. January 22nd.
That's a long time ago. I think public policy polling is just going to be like, we're not going to do any polls on
Just
Florida.
not going to pull the race at all.
Yeah.
They may have blocked us. Our call's not going through. I'm trying to put
It's not going through?
Oh. I think it...
Is it working or not?
I'm not actually getting a ringing. Hold on. Let me start the call again.
All right, start the call again. Let's get this thing going here. All right. And the reason we're giving public policy polling, if you haven't heard the story before, we'll give you a little bit of an instance on this one, or a little bit of information on this one. They said they were going to include Adrian if we quit talking, we quit asking. So we quit asking. Then they wouldn't put him in. And when we asked why, they said, well, you stopped asking. So now we got to make sure that we keep asking, even though we know that they're probably not going to put him on the poll, even though with Lucas Overby, I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but Lucas Overby in the race against David Jolly, the anti-gun Republican that is in Congress right now.
That would like to indefinitely detain you.
That would like to also indefinitely detain you. That guy is up against Lucas Overby in a one-on-one race. Lucas is in the 30s. He's got a 17. Overby's got a down by 17 or by 16 points. But this is really high numbers going into it, which shows that he does have a good, solid chance of actually defeating the gun-grabbing NDAA supporting David Jolly.
Anything?
That's a good way of
Nothing. The call just keeps not going through.
So PPP has blocked us.
I think they may have because it's not ringing. It's not going through.
Well, they blocked that number.
Yeah, they probably.
We'll have to get another number.
We'll
for
get
next
a new
week.
number.
We'll get a new number for next week. That's all right. No big deal. We'll get it there. And way to go. Way to go. These guys really good at being accountable to the general public there as a public policy polling service.
We have a lot of other stuff coming out of Pinellas, though.
Oh, yeah, let's get in Pinellas.
So, a Pinellas judge finds a St. Petersburg's officer's testimony incredible. And you would think that would be a good thing, but it's not, because what it means is not credible.
Yeah.
So, this was something that happened, and I don't actually have the dates of what happened, but someone was pulled over. They actually had basically rolled through a stop sign. While they rolled through a stop sign, that they had come from what the police thought was a drug dealer's home. They asked to search the center console. He said yes. They looked in the center console. Nothing was there. So they were writing him a ticket. Another officer comes up, Officer Brandon Bill, comes up and says, He smelled the faint smell of marijuana and vanilla air freshener, so he used that as probable cause to search the entire vehicle. When he searched the entire vehicle, they did find prescription drugs and some cocaine. This person was arrested, was going in front of the judge. The judge says, this was the judge, this was Circuit Judge Michael Andrews, says, it stretches the limit of credulity for this court to believe that the search of the defendant's vehicle was based upon the odor of marijuana. Here, Officer Bill's testimony is discredited, controverted, and contradictory within itself, and as such is incredible. And the reason why is because marijuana was not found. So for the probable cause to search the vehicle to be the smell of marijuana, and in fact there was none of the actual substance anywhere within the car, they're saying that he lied.
Well, yeah. Well, they're saying that he lied, and he lied. Right.
And, this is one of those things where this happens a lot. This is a very common, use of, well, I smelled the faint smell of marijuana, so that gave me cause to search the vehicle. And, whether they find some or don't find some, normally the testimony of the officer is not thrown out. But this judge says that, that this is not credible. You used a blanket excuse to search a vehicle when, in fact, you never smelled marijuana because there wasn't any.
Yep, that was good. No, good job. Good going on the judge, by the way. I mean, real good job on the judge there because, look, again, you got to have the right probable cause to be able to search the vehicle. You just can't have the cops lying and the judges supporting that. I'm glad this judge took the step and didn't support this.
Yeah, This is definitely a step for, supporting the Constitution, that if the evidence wasn't there, the probable cause didn't exist, so you should not have been there. Whatever this guy did do outside of that, inconsequential. Listen, this guy is, going to go right back to what he was doing. He's going to get caught another time. They're going to have plenty of evidence to get him, and do whatever. But at the end of the day, they didn't have the evidence for this, and it was thrown out. So, good on Circuit Judge Michael Andrews.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and when he comes up for re-election, we should remember this.
Oh, yeah. No, this guy, you want to talk about a guy that deserves to be re-elected?
It's
Michael Andrews deserves to be re-elected. Again, he's going to follow the law.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Now, some bad news out of Pinellas.
Well, yeah, because it can't be all good news out of Pinellas.
Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gutierrez really doesn't like the medical cannabis amendment. In fact, he was at the Tiger Bay Club debate between a supporter of the Amendment 2 and a critic of Amendment 2. They did a debate at the Tiger Bay Club, and this was his exact words. This is all about trying to get something on the ballot, to get something legalized under the guise of calling it medical something, so people can sit around on Saturday night with a bunch of marijuana cigarettes and get high recreationally. That's really what it's all about.
God, I wish that was the truth.
And this, he says, and other people, said that the Amendment 2, basically the people who are against Amendment 2 says, well, Amendment 2 gives immunity to the entire industry.
Really?
Yeah.
I keep looking for that wording in the law.
Yeah, I've read the amendment quite extensively. I don't see that in there at all. In fact, I see very, kind of restrictions on recreational use, actually. Also, the actual regulations haven't even been written yet. So for them to say that it's giving immunity to anyone is just a farce. In fact, anyone right now that's going to tell you what the regulations are is lying.
Yeah.
And I can say that as a blanket statement because there are no regulations currently written because they don't write them until after it passes. Right. So anyone who tells you what the regulations are going to be or not going to be is a liar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, here's something else, though. There's something else I wanted to mention here with old Bob Gutierrez. Bob's the sheriff, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the sheriff has a specific list of duties that go along with that and a career that would support that. Now, one of the things is that you're there to enforce the law. What I think that you ought to do, though, when it comes to these things, is realize that you've taken a position of authority to be the sheriff, all right? So when it comes to what we're going to vote on or not vote on, when it comes to public policy of what's going to be legal or what's going to be illegal, you got to understand that you have a very clear conflict of interest here. Is that a lot of your police budget, a lot of your sheriff's budget, has to do with the enforcing of this bad law. It's a plan. It's a victimless crime. It's a plan. It's a bad law. So go ahead, Bob, and keep your mouth shut while we have this discussion. Now, if you want to bring out the other people that want to be against, medical marijuana, that want to have this argument, then let's have the argument. But it already shows now that you're a liar because you don't know what you're even talking about in this instance. So maybe you're not even lying. You either are lying, which means you shouldn't be sheriff anymore, or you're not lying. And in the cases that you're not lying, you don't understand what's going on here. Now you're going to go, well, I have, arrested a whole bunch of people and they've ruined their lives because of marijuana. They ruined their lives because you arrested them. All right? And you honestly, if you want to go down the road here, the real reason that you don't want this thing legal is it's going to mess with your budget. This is a money thing for you, Bob. If you were honest, then that's what you would say. Unfortunately, the people of Pinellas County has a sheriff that is not honest. He's a liar. And there's nothing that irks me more than a person in a position of power like he is as the sheriff of Pinellas County is going to use that position to lie to the citizens of Pinellas County. Shame on you, Bob Gutierrez. Keep your mouth shut during this entire process, and it's going to be legal no matter what you say anyway. It's going to be legal, Bob. So just be quiet and let us go through this and enforce the law. Don't go over. Don't try to be the mob. Just deal with the law, and that's your job. You have a hard enough time doing that as it is.
Now, this is what he went on to say that, because people were saying that this is up to doctor's discretion, that, you can't just run around and go buy, cannabis, that this would be a prescription just like any other prescription pain medicine or prescription medicine. And what he says is that he's in full support of providing medication, but that anyone who wanted to relieve pain, and he did say seriously ill to relieve pain, should use the FDA-approved synthetic cannabinoid that comes in a capsule called Marinol. Because actual cannabis is approved in certain forms. It's called Marinol. What he either doesn't know or doesn't want to tell you is that the CBD amounts found in Marinol only treat the symptoms of epilepsy and not pain. It is way too low to actually be any kind of anti-inflammatory or pain relief. It is only used in very severe cases of epilepsy. So there is no one besides someone who's suffering from epilepsy that is going to be helped by Marinol. And that you need the combination of the CBD and the THC for it to become an anti-inflammatory or a pain relieving medication. So either Bob Gutierrez doesn't know that or doesn't want to tell the public that, because what he's doing is falling back on this, oh no, I support patients, they should just go get this medicine that's already approved, without telling you that medication won't help them.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize that the sheriff of Pinellas County is also a damn doctor.
I'm not going to be so nice about it. Sheriff Bob Gutierrez is one of the many people living in the reefer madness generation. They think that smoking marijuana is going to make white people and black people get together. It's going to make the black people run out of control. It's going to make white people lose their minds and teenagers kill people. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. He's a moron. Everybody who believes it is a moron, and all of you are going to lose. You're going to be beaten by better minds.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, what is legal, and let's go with what is legal, like OxyContin and hydrocodone, that is absolutely legal under a doctor's prescription.
Yeah, and way worse.
And is way worse and filled with opiates.
Yes.
Again, it comes down to one thing, and this is the thing. They want to make this about pot. It's not about pot. It's about money.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's about money. Bob Gutierrez lied because of money, because he gets his money because of this. So Bob, I don't care what you have to say about this stuff. You really should keep your mouth shut about it, along with the entire state of Florida Sheriff's Association, who's also come out against this, who now is putting a website called, Florida's Going to Pot. I really do hope that Adrian Wiley does become governor, because I would like to see the state of Florida actually do something and stop these politicians and these elected officials and these people that are on the taxpayer dole from continuing to do this stuff, or they can just lose their jobs. Because I'd like to see Bob Gutierrez actually be fired now for his comments.
No, I mean, like I said, it's misleading. It's downright lies in some instances. He's trying to even, say how he's sympathetic to, to patients and that. But at the end of the day, he uses misinformation and outright lies to try to make his point instead of just going based on the facts. Listen, you want to have an argument based on the facts? Let's do that.
Yeah.
But start basing it in fact.
Yep. We do have a caller, though. I wonder, is it about this subject?
It is about this subject. We've got a caller on the line. Peter from Plant City.
All right, Peter from Plant City, you're on the line, sir. Hello.
I just want to tell you, the gentleman who mentioned police budgets hit it right on the head, and the mainstream media never asks that question when they're so far against it. The law enforcement budgets are so bloated on marijuana alone. They get the search and seizures. They get everything. They get the government funding on it. And they're as terrified as they were when alcohol prohibition ended. All the toys, the helicopters, the tanks, the high-speed boats, all those toys were no longer needed.
Amen to that, by the way.
And the other thing about it, too, it's the drug testing industry. I mean, you've got to pee in a cup for just about any job there is in this country. Anything over $10 an hour. And the majority of the people that are going to get hit are going to get hit on marijuana because it lasts in your system for 30 days. And they love it because it's so much power. The insurance companies basically strong-arm all the employers to do it, to get a discounted rate. And if all of a sudden medical marijuana becomes legal, it's no longer cost-effective, and it terrifies the drug testing companies are worth billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And the absolute best, worst-case scenario, you've got somebody who's got a debilitating disease. You will give them all the OxyContin that they can buy. You will give them every type of codeine, every type of painkiller. But when it comes to marijuana, the big problem is they can produce it themselves a lot cheaper. Just like the one girl mentioned about the synthetic form that the pharmaceutical companies make. Well, they don't tell you the price.
Yeah.
They don't tell you how you control the dosage because they're making a lot of money off of that. It might not even work, whereas the different variations. So I want to thank you for mentioning that. Law enforcement, drug companies, they're terrified about this going through.
Yeah, and if we're going to talk about law enforcement and we're going to talk about where they stand on it, we got to make sure that we mention something like LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Mm-hmm. That you do have people that were active duty, were part of the sheriff's offices, part of police, that have realized the error in this and that have come out against it, so much so that they actually made an organization against it. And when you bring guys like that on to talk, they're able to give it to you from a first-person perspective, exactly what's going on, and their pocketbook is not affected on it anymore. Bob Gutierrez is... it's a conflict of interest. He's currently making his money off of this. So that's why I don't want these guys talking about this stuff, because they shouldn't, because they don't. And you're right about the money thing. It is all about the money with these guys.
Well, and what Bob... go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, and whether it's Bay News 9 or a debate here and there, they will never show, the law enforcement, that agency that you talked about, law enforcement, that are for ending prohibition. They won't. But then if you take a look at the mainstream media, and I mean, not to bash them too hard, but watch all the pharmaceutical ads that you see in primetime TV. Those are high-dollar ads in a great area. Everything from depression to this to that. If all of a sudden somebody has a depression or having a bad day and they light one up and they feel a lot better, think about all those prescription drug companies that are going to lose money. Now, Once they start losing money, they stop advertising on ABC, NBC, CBS. So the people who are conducting these debates actually know what can happen. They have to in their advertising department because that's where the revenue is generated.
Yep.
So they kind of try to fix the debate as much as they can. And I think after Colorado, the cattle have left the barn. And it's not the catastrophe that they were all predicting or actually hoping.
Well, yeah, actually, in Colorado, violent crime has gone down. The rate of crime has gone down, and in particular, violent crime has actually seen a decrease since marijuana has been legal.
I will say this, though, they were not prepared for the Twinkie increase, and unfortunately, there is runs in Colorado on the Twinkies. They have gone on the black market. They've moved marijuana off the black market. Twinkies are on. It's mass hysteria. No, I'm making a joke. I'm making a joke on that one.
Hey,
go ahead.
Can I just end with this?
Sure.
Another organization that's terrified about this is the alcohol organization. They are absolutely terrified about this. Somebody had told me, reading an article, and I don't know if it was in a conservative magazine, that alcohol sales were down 16% in the state of California. Mm-hmm. That scares the death out of them. There's a lot of tax revenue coming off of alcohol, but that's your market. That's what they choose. Whether it's beer, wine, or whiskey. And if all of a sudden they've got a competitor that's a lot cheaper, and some people switch to it, you're not going to have the violence. You're not going to have the sales, and then the bottom line. Now, if I'm in the alcohol lobby, I'm spending every dollar I can get just to defeat this measure because it protects my bottom line and other issues.
Yep. Nope.
And,
absolutely.
that goes along with the sheriff.
But you're like a carpenter as many times you hit the nail on the head today, sir. Let me just say that. Thank you very much for the call. We really do appreciate it. Call in anytime, sir.
Hey, man, take care.
Take care. Great call, by the way.
Yeah, that was.
We don't get a whole lot of calls, man, but we do, man. Somebody's just knocking them. Like Hank Aaron, man, just bat, 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 bat.
Yeah, Bob Gutierrez also went on to say, so what you're going to end up with is a person who claims they've got a headache. They're going to go to some doctor who's going to receive 100 or 200. They're going to give him certification, take him to a dispensary, and they're going to sit there on a Saturday night and smoke pot. That's really what's going to happen with it.
And it means they're not going to be outside being able to get a ticket from you.
And what he is not saying is that same person can claim to get a headache, go to that same doctor who's going to receive the same $100 or $200, and he can receive a prescription for oxycodone, hydrocodone, all Percocets, Vicodin, which are all opiates, which is another form of heroin, and that would be legal, and Bob Gutierrez is okay with that.
And the other thing is this. Look, man, let's just be real here for a second, right? If you wanted to go down probably within a mile of your house and buy a bag of marijuana from a drug dealer and go back to your house on a Saturday night, I'm going to tell you, Bob, you can't stop anybody from doing that right now. Because you can't keep it out of the jails you own.
Exactly.
And that's supposed to be the place that you can do this at. So it's a big myth that you can even stop it. Again, look, there is not one commercial, well, maybe there is in Colorado, but not in Florida. There's not one commercial about marijuana. There is no spokesperson saying you need to get high, other than maybe Snoop Dogg. So there's not this commercialization of this, and yet it happens all the time. I wonder why that is. It's because people want to get high. You can't stop people from wanting to get high. They'll find something else. And if you take this away, that's when you cause the problem, because that spice stuff is not good. Mm-hmm. It is bad. It can cause problems. But the legal, but regular marijuana, growing it yourself, is not a bad thing. Again, and we're not even having the legalization argument. This thing is restrictive. It is a restrictive. Yes on 2 is still a restriction. You are not just going to be able to go and get high whenever you want. It doesn't work that way. So, anything else you guys wanted to add on that?
No.
Well, I did want to add, if you are on the same page as us in Pinellas County, and you want to fight against what Galtieri is doing and all of the other authoritarian psychopaths, come on out, join the Libertarian Party of Pinellas County at the Pepper Fest. We're going to be there all weekend. That's in Pinellas Park at the England Brothers Bandshell Park. We're going to be there at the Pepper Fest all weekend with our tent, handing out information. We're going to have representatives from all of the candidates there at our tent. So if you want to learn more about Adrian Wiley, Lucas Overby, Bill Wolsifer, information is going to be there. People from all the races are going to be there. So come on out and see us at the Pepperfest.
Do you guys have any of the Yes on 2 stuff out there? I mean, it's kind of a given that you're Yes on 2, but like, do you have anything official?
I don't know about our material, whether we have any or not. I would assume that we do.
Any Yes on 2 propaganda?
I certainly hope so, but I can't say for sure what we have on our propaganda. I know we got tons of stuff for all the candidates and some of the other stuff that's going on.
Well, and we'll just say Yes on 2, so that'll be enough anyway. So
I know we got a lot of material for the Hemp for Water and stuff like that.
Bill Wolsifer. Who's running a really good campaign, by the way. Gotta give Bill credit.
Great candidates.
Oh yeah, we got good candidates that are running great campaigns, man. I love them to death, man. I think they're all doing phenomenally well, and they're polling well, which goes to show you that they're doing even better. All of them are doing better than ever before. All right, then let's take a break here real quick. When we get back, Rick Scott will be our next target. It's going to be a good time. We're going to enjoy our discussions with good old Ricky and an organization that says that he's doing well, even though every statistic proves the otherwise. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with camera. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
You know, Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street, just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground. If you would like to call the program, the number is 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032. We promise we won't sell your information to the feds. All right, continuing on with the show that is all about liberty and freedom, the Liberty Underground Show. Danielle, what's next?
Well, we've been talking a lot about, Rick Scott, and we actually in the second hour went over a lot of legislation that passed through the Florida legislature, but a lot of it is still on the governor's desk. He has only so far vetoed one piece of legislation, and that was the increase to the speed limits.
Okay, look. This thing didn't automatically increase speed limits, by the way.
Right.
All it did was allow for the increase of speed limits on certain roads.
And it allowed the counties and municipalities and the if it was a Florida highway for the Florida Department of Transportation, it would only allow them to raise it if they felt that the traffic and everything warranted that raise.
Yeah, and here's the thing. On the interstates, everybody's already doing these speeds. Like, it's already happening. Like,
Right.
If anything, the slower drivers are making it unsafe on the road. That's why they have minimum speed limits on the interstate. What they should have done is they should have raised the minimum speed limit to 50. In addition to raising it to 80.
In addition to this. But, and here's the thing, and we've talked about this before, at the end of the day, this bill would have only put it back to not even where it used to be, because the speed limit used to be 85.
Did it really?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
In the early 80s.
In the early
85, 86.
Really?
I think that's when it changed.
Yeah, I'd like to get that back, man. I'd like to be able to.
Yeah,
because if you do 85, you can do 90.
As we were, as we were looking at this, and I had actually had someone like. I'm in one of these Facebook groups where it's like, if you came from Pasco, you remember when, and someone actually had posted a picture of when you could go on I-75 and it was 85. Like, there was the speed limit sign.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
So, this was, they make it sound, oh my gosh, we wouldn't be safe. Yeah, because it was so bad, then.
So let's make sure we get this right here, because we're going to have to wrap all this stuff up together here.
Yeah.
So Rick Scott did veto one bill so far, and that bill was to raise the speed limit, which you would say is definitely a very pro-freedom bill, was to raise the speed limit. So he's already proved himself to be a full-fledged member of the nanny state.
Yeah, he vetoed a few line items in the budget, but, as far as bills go, he's only vetoed one. Everything else has been going through. He still has a lot on his desk. They're still, let me I have the report up here. Let me get to the bottom of it. I can tell you how many are still out here. You still have, it looks like 200 pending is 105.
105 pending.
Yeah. So you still have, and the ones that he hasn't received would be another 63. So you're looking at 168 bills out of the 255 that he hasn't even, looked at.
But after a certain amount of time, they all just become law.
Yes. If he runs out of time, they all become law.
Yeah. So that happens.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, he did sign the budget.
He did sign the budget this week. He signed it on Tuesday. He did. The budget is the only bill that he does have the line item veto authority. So in other bills where there's a lot of things going on in the same bill, he can either veto the whole thing or approve the whole thing. In the budget, he has a line item veto where if he says, I don't like that item, he can veto just that item. Now, they expected him to veto about $100 million out of the budget. His original proposed budget was $74 billion this year, which was a $2.5 billion increase from last year. When it went to the Florida legislature, they doubled down and said $74 billion, we can beat that. And then sent back to him a $77.1 billion state budget. He went through that. And on Tuesday, he line item vetoed only $69 million in spending.
Yeah, which is not even any at all. And some of the stuff he spent money on, like we said, $1 million went to the Hacienda in Pasco County. $4 million, $1 million and $4 million requested for a Nature Coast Tourist Center in Hernando County. $500,000 for a Largo Cultural Center. $100,000 for the YMCA's Tech Smart Tampa Bay. $50,000 for a Tampa Bay Baseball Museum at the home of Hall of Famer Al Lopez. So at his home. Again, this thing had a whole ton of pork in it. A whole bunch of projects that people didn't even ask for.
Yeah.
And he signed all of it. he signed pretty much just went aside and just signed everything.
Some of it he lowered, like originally there was supposed to be $5 million for the cultural center in Hernando. He's only going to give them $4 million. So I don't, I haven't yet to find anything that he just vetoed in total, but he lowered some things. It was, and even the legislature, basically, most of the legislators said that they packed this thing with a ton of pork. And I want to put something into context, because I've heard a few people say, yeah, but, a lot of it went into reserves. You can't call that, a bad increase because it went into reserves. And that is true. And there was a surplus. But I want to put this into context. The budget from last year, which was $71 billion, to this year is $77 billion. That's a $6 billion increase. $3 billion is going into reserves. $1.2 billion was the surplus. That's only $4.2 billion out of a $6 billion increase. So even no matter how you spin this, you may take away some of the increase by saying, well, no, but this went to reserves and this was a surplus. No matter how you spin this is an increase. It's a bad increase. No matter how you try to spin it, there is no way to get rid of the fact that this is a multi-billion-dollar budget increase.
Yes. So now you would think, we at the Liberty First, for Liberty First, we we opposed the budget. We can explain to you why. We showed you all the pork that's in it. We've just laid out a couple instances of pork that's in the bill, and there's a lot more in it than just that. There's a lot of corporate welfare, as we've seen through the bills that were passed. Mm-hmm. Those things cost money. That's part of the budget as well. So Rick Scott could have vetoed all of those things, chose not to do any of those things. Now, if you've listened to this program in the past, you know that in addition to me having anger issues, sometimes those anger issues are directed at certain groups and organizations. One of the groups and organizations that is typically aimed at is an organization called Americans for Prosperity. Now, I don't look to go after Americans for Prosperity, to be honest with you. I'd rather just kind of leave it as it is, because
I'd like to forget they exist.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, and it really depresses me that the Koch brothers would actually use their money to support the Republicans when they know that the Republicans aren't any better than the Democrats. However, what can you do here? So, on June 2nd, the AFP of Florida State Director had some comments on the signing of HB 501. State Director Hudson, Chris Hudson is his name, he thanks Rick Scott for cutting taxes and fees, paying down debt. Now, first off, you can't necessarily pay down debt, because we have to have a balanced budget. So, what's that debt thing all about? But at any rate, cutting taxes and fees. How much was the cutting of taxes and fees on that thing?
$500 million.
Which was the equivalent of how much per person?
$25.
All right, so $25 per on average. And this is what he said. This is Tallahassee. Americans for Prosperity Florida State Director Chris Hudson released the following statement today upon the signing of the annual appropriations bill. Now, remember all the stuff we said before. So for this part, Governor Scott has continued to fulfill the promise he made to Floridians when he was elected by cutting taxes, trimming the fat in state government, and working to push Florida's economy to the best in the nation. Now, I also want you to remember that we've talked about this before, is that the labor participation rate in Florida is one of the lowest that it's ever been, like on record.
In the last 25 years. It's the lowest it's been for the last 25 years.
Okay, so let's go with the things here. So when he was elected, cutting taxes, $25, not really. In all reality, that's not even cutting taxes. Trimming the fat in state government, I think we've already laid out a couple instances as to where that actually didn't happen.
Corporate welfare ran rampant this year.
Yes, and working to push Florida's economy to be the best in the nation. I guess except for that labor participation rate thing. HB 5001 includes $500 million in tax and fee cuts for Florida families. More than $600 million in savings from improved efficiencies in state government operations, an increase in state reserves, and the continued pay down of the state debt. This budget sends the message that Florida is focused on the long-term growth of economic opportunity and prosperity for all its families and businesses. I mean, unless you own a sweepstakes location, or if you're a ride-sharing service, or if you are a craft brewer, or if name your industry. This only goes to perpetuate the truth. And the truth is that the state director of AFP is lying. Well, let me not say lying. Let me say it a different way. Is doing what politicians do, which is to not tell you the truth. And that everything that they said, cutting taxes. Okay, there was one tax that he cut that went to $25. Okay, I'll go with that one. They were trying to raise taxes and they passed it in other areas, so they raised taxes as well. So if we're going to go with that number, we can say they raised taxes too. Trimming the fat in state government. You cannot trim the fat in state government and have the biggest budget ever. You can't have it both ways. And that's what they did.
And even when you take out the money that you paid in reserves, the money that was a surplus, you still have more spending.
Yeah, more, not less, more spending. If the dude would have went like with a $68 million budget, and that's what he went with, then I would have had to say, dude did a good job.
Even if the budget went down by $10, I would say, well, the budget did go down. But that's not what happened. It increased by $6 billion.
Yeah, $6 billion is what it increased by. And AFP is going to come out and support this. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you guys do this. It doesn't make any sense to me because you're not getting what you want if you're against the stuff you claim to be for, you're not getting. Who cares about a $25 tag lowering when they actually raised it like way more than that anyway? It's not even getting it back to what it was before.
Right.
If that was the case, I would have to go, well, they got it back where it was before. It's still an increase based off of what it used to be.
Right.
Why? Why do you make me have to do this to you, AFP? Why? It's your fault that I have to do this because I have to be honest. Look, Liberty First Network put out a survey. I'm dying to see what you guys put out because the last time you guys put out a survey, you gave everybody an A up in Tallahassee. Scorecard. Whatever. You know what I'm saying.
I at this point find Americans for Prosperity Florida to be the most useless organization in the entire state.
But let me also say this. I know a ton of people that work for AFP.
They should quit.
I don't understand how you guys can stomach it yourselves. I don't understand it. I mean, look, I know you guys are out there trying to do the right thing, and God bless you for trying to do the right thing. And I feel bad that your leadership does this. I do feel bad because I don't know how you can explain it to people when somebody comes and asks you. You know what I mean? I don't understand how you can explain this to people, but this is what they did. And don't think we don't know you got some. I'm not gonna say that part. Because I'm gonna find out some other stuff about you guys, AFP, for this next coming up year. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. When I find out about it, I am going to ensure that it is exposed because this is crap. You guys, you want to talk about? Look, we should all be unified in this and not be fighting. You're absolutely right. We should be unified. We should not be fighting. We should all believe the same thing that we're shoveling because I would like to see cutting taxes, trimming of fat in the state government, and working to push Florida's economy to the best in the nation. Unfortunately, Rick Scott's not doing that. It's just not happening. It's not going on. Whether you want to say that it is or not, just because you say it doesn't make it so. He actually has to do those things in order for it to happen, and it didn't happen. The division that happens in this movement is because organizations like AFP have bought and are beholden to the Republican Party, and it's because of that they put stuff like this out as a political move to give Republicans cover for the bad things that they're doing. And shame on you guys for doing that. Not shame on the entire organization. Shame on Chris Hudson. Go ahead.
No, I mean, listen, my biggest problem with this whole statement is the trimming of the fat. Because even the legislators all came out and said that they packed this budget with more than they ever have before.
Yeah.
And only $69 million was even vetoed. So I take a large issue with the fact that they're saying that they're trimming the fat in state government. Because even the Florida House and the Florida Senate has said that they packed more sweetheart deals into this budget than they ever have before. And Rick Scott allowed it. So there was no trimming of fat.
Yeah, not at all. It's just not the way it is. But let's go to caller on the
We got a special caller on the line here, gubernatorial candidate for the Libertarian Party, Adrian Wiley.
Oh, Wiley. Oh, how you doing? Is he calling back?
you got excited thinking it was just a regular caller?
Yeah, I was for a second.
Well, we did have another regular caller earlier.
Hey, I want to tell you guys some interesting news. I'm just outside of Orlando, and I'm picking you up on AM 1400 all the way out here.
Wow.
AM 1400.
So. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
You guys are coming.
We should figure out who AM 1400 is. We should figure out who AM 1400 is.
Thank them.
Yes.
Now, forgive me for breach of radio etiquette here, but are you guys broadcasting live, or are you on tape delay on 1400?
No, we're live right now.
We're live. You're calling in.
Oh, good, okay. All right. I know you're broadcasting, but I wasn't sure if they were picking up an hour later. Hey, then can I jump on the I don't like AFC bandwagon too?
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah, it's amazing. We've brought this up time and time again. That really the AFC is primarily a Republican front group that has their own vested interests, and those vested interests are ensuring that Koch Industries gets preferential treatment by government. And if anyone hasn't figured that out yet, shame on them, because we've been talking about that for a long time. And I really appreciate you guys detailing Rick Scott's budget, because what a nightmare that thing is, isn't it?
I can't understand how anybody thinks this is cutting anything. Look, you can't cut something and yet have the biggest budget ever. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Even their spin, they can't get to a cut.
Yeah, the spin ain't even a cut on this stuff. It's horrible. It's horrible. But I'm glad that you called in, though, and I'm glad that you're not in jail.
No, but I am currently piloting my personal automobile, so anything could happen at any given time.
That's a good point. You could get picked up by aliens, too.
Say again?
You could get picked up by aliens, too.
Yeah, it's always a possibility. Always a possibility. But I did just come from Canada's event. I got to tell you, a great event out there. At least a couple hundred people there. Wide media coverage. All the local news stations were out there. And it was great to see Kathy and Bob Jordan. They were out there. This effort is really, really picking up steam. And like I told the group there, Amendment 2 is absolutely going to pass. I'm convinced of that at this point. But now we just got to make sure that the regulators and the legislators don't get their paws all over it and destroy the good work that we're doing so far.
All right, great. And we do have another caller, so we do want to get to the caller before the end of the show. Can you give us your website, Mr. Wiley, sir?
I'll let you guys handle that, because I think you guys probably know it pretty well as well.
WileyForGovernor.com, folks. That's Adrian Wiley calling in from the road over Orlando. Not at the Canada Festival, by the way. The Cannabis Festival. So he wasn't going to Canada. He was talking about cannabis.
How did he get to Canada from Orlando?
Yeah, what's that about, eh?
Oh.
All right, guys.
We'll talk to you later, Adrian. All right, let's get to another caller. Who's the next caller?
Canada.
Are they still there?
It's got a transfer.
This is crazy what's going on today with phone calls. Boy, it's amazing. 1-800-525-4032. You might be able to get in at the end. Caller number 7 receives nothing.
Our next caller on the line here, this is Ian from Clearwater.
Ian from Clearwater. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to throw out a couple of questions, and then I'm going to hang up and listen to your response. Wouldn't you agree that basically, not only in Florida, but in this country, the Republicans and Democrats are both two statist-orientated parties? Would you agree with that? Because I certainly believe they are.
Yes, I would go with that, sir.
Would go with that.
And politics today is this practice. Unfortunately, it's constituencies and how you buy votes. And I would suggest that the libertarians or people that are libertarian-orientated that want to shrink the state, why don't we sell the state to us, the people, the owners? Let's buy some votes by selling off these airports that we own, like PIE and TPA, and all these government assets that theoretically are owned by the people. Well, why don't we sell them and sell all this land that the government owns back to the people? We can raise money and pay our national debt and buy votes with that and build a party. Doesn't that sound like something we could think about, maybe?
You know what? Honestly, it's not a bad idea. The only problem is that the guys that would be able to ultimately make the decision to sell that land are the politicians that are in charge. So it's almost kind of like a little bit of a chicken and egg scenario. You got to get in there to be able to sell the land, to be able to have that money. But look, I completely agree with selling the land, though.
Yeah.
Well, what they're saying is that people, like-minded people like ourselves, we have to attain power. That's what we have to do. And yeah, I mean, I voted for Scott. I didn't really like him. We're going to have to. It comes down to the same old thing: Tweedledee Republican and Tweedledum Democrat. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well. Actually, let me just, if you don't mind, real quick. This race though is a little bit different. You got Tweedledee Republican against Tweedledum former Republican. You know what I mean? I mean, I wouldn't call Christ any much more of a Democrat than I would just an opportunist more than anything else. And it's not like, I mean, his flip-flopping has changed, but he's going to basically do the same thing that he was doing in office before. So there should be a lot less of a hesitancy than you've had in the past on this one.
The two parties basically are two rival political gangs, like the Bloods and the Crips, and they're just trying to attain power so they can get control of the Treasury and dole out favors. Yep. And we see where that's leading us: bankruptcy, insolvency, and we're going to go broke. And I think the sooner it happens, the better, actually.
Yeah, well, no, there is a thought process to that, actually, of just letting it all burn down. I definitely have days where I'm more in favor of that than anything else. Anything else, sir?
No, I just like your show. I like your program. I like what you guys are doing, and we just need to bust up the monopoly of these political parties. I mean, I'm of the opinion we need. I don't care if there's a Communist Party or a Nazi Party or a Democrat left or a Libertarian Christian or a Libertarian atheist. We need political competition in this country, same as there's competition the way you can buy a computer or go get a hamburger. We need to get rid of this Democrat-Republican monopoly, and we need to have 5 or 6 or 7 different political parties all at each other's throats fighting for our votes.
Amen to that. Thank you for the call, sir. Yeah, definitely. Whenever you want to call in, go ahead and call in. That's awesome. Man, we've had some good callers today. For Pete's sake, man, where you people been? Get on the damn phones and call us, man. This is good stuff. These guys are making better. Honestly, we're in the wrong seats. I should be on the other side now. This is awesome. I can't believe it. I'm happy. I'm happy as a little girl. Sorry, I went like Mike Myers' old SNL skit. Sorry, I apologize for that one. Lord, I apologize. And the gentleman on the phone made great points. That was great points. I'd like to have as many parties as possible because the more you have, that means you got to fight. I'd like to have even go with a 5-5-5-5 deal where you had 5% was in each of 4 or 6 parties that got you to 30% were there and 70% were all MPAs, and all of us had to fight for their votes. And I think if you had that, then you would have a lot better. You'd have a lot better government. You actually would have a lot better government. Now, there would be people in that were of bents that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, but I think you'd have a lot more honesty up there than what you currently have right now. And I believe that the one thing that you want to talk about some deficits, we have a deficit of honesty in politics. When it comes to our elected officials, it is a deficit of honesty. And they utilize those lies in order to keep you not focused on the right things. When he's talking about how the money's going to go down, let one politician go up there and say anything bad about the Fed, and all of a sudden there's some radical. You know what I mean? When this is the organization that has taken our dollar from $1 to about 4 cents in the matter of a century. You want to talk about taxes? You want to talk about minimum wage? You want to talk about those problems? Hey, I hear you. They're problems. I feel bad that there's people that can't make it off of a regular job in this world, but you're looking at the wrong person. It ain't the employer's fault that the Fed was printing money out of thin air. It's the Fed's fault that they were printing money out of thin air, and it was politicians who were getting greased that allowed it to happen and allow it to continue to happen. Not only does it continue to happen, it has now been institutionalized. Quantitative easing. Does that ring a bell? That is institutionalized. $80 billion a month they print and they give away for nothing. They give it away. And who gets the money for that? The bankers. Then when you want to talk about income inequality, you have to take a look at that because those guys are getting so much money that they've skewed income inequality out of the way. And I just saw a report that says, Americans are saving now more than ever. On a whole, you're right because the bankers are getting paid. Yeah. But the rest of us are getting screwed. So I agree with the income inequality. That's one thing that, libertarians will agree on. Our problem is we actually want to fix it, not try to put a Band-Aid on it.
We want to actually get to
stop it. We want to stop anybody from utilizing the government to take money from the rest of us, either through direct or indirect means. And inflation is an indirect way of making that happen. And the sooner that the American people understand that fact, again, not a matter of opinion, a fact. Once they understand that fact, we'll be much better off. But we got to wrap the show up. Again, the website, 1787network.com. Danielle, Greg, got anything to say? I kind of...
You kind of, that's about it.
Talk hard.
Yeah.
I was engaged. I was engaged for 3 hours.
You were.
You were
really good.
You were. I got to give you credit.
We'll give you credit for that one.
It's about a boy named America, people. God bless America. God bless you. God bless Greg Bowen. God bless Danielle Alexander. And don't God bless AFP, because those guys shouldn't do what they're doing. We'll see you next week. You listen to Liberty Underground.
Don't be mistaken. I believe